A very warm welcome. Thank you very much indeed for making your way here so promptly. Welcome to all of you joining us for the Greenhouse Demo Day, both here in person and to those of you joining us virtually too. You are in for a real treat this afternoon, and I know the reason you're here, so we're going to get to that as quickly as possible, but just a few brief points to share first. This is the fourth time that we are coming back together to celebrate the achievements of the greenhouse startups here in the beautiful Royal Institution. And before we kick off, just some very brief background points to share with you and an outline of what you can expect this afternoon, along with just a few brief housekeeping points. And I promise I will keep it as brief as possible so we can get to the good stuff. Now, the Greenhouse Accelerator kicked off back in January 2021, and this was as part of the new Centre for Climate Change Innovation, which is now known as Undaunted, as you all know. Since then, 100 teams have participated in the 12-month programme of support, and the startups that you'll be hearing from today are all part of the fourth intake of that programme. We have such an exciting afternoon lined up for you, which will be split into three sections, and those three sections will be focused firstly on the circular economy and low carbon materials. We'll then focus on food and nature-based systems, and we'll finish up with system efficiencies. We'll have guest speakers to kick off each section, followed by 5 startup pitches per section. We ask for your participation throughout with questions, and at the end of each pitch we'll put those to the team. So do please keep your mobile phones to hand, but if you haven't already, please put them on silent to avoid disruption. We aim to wrap up proceedings by around 5:30, and at which point we'll ask you to join us for networking drinks, which will run until around 7:30. And each of the startups has a designated standing table in the networking space, so they should be really easy to find. And if you struggle at all, members of the Undaunted team are on hand. You'll find them, and they can point you in the right direction. Just a few final points of housekeeping. There are no planned fire alarms during the event this afternoon, so if it happens, it's a real thing, please file out via the fire exit signs, which you'll see either side of the stage here. The toilets are on the ground floor to the right at the bottom, and the RI team, I've been told, will be hosting a science demonstration during the breaks throughout this afternoon at the end of the event, so do make sure to check those out. Right. I'm really excited to join you for this afternoon. I'm Raya Al-Salahi. I'll be your host throughout and hopefully making sure that things go smoothly. You are in for a real treat, and we're going to kick off with the first of 2 speakers to officially start proceedings this afternoon. Please put your hands together to welcome the CEO of HSBC UK, Ian Stewart.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me okay? Am I on? Good. Well, first of all, can I just add my welcome to the Royal Institution? I'll share my thoughts on that just in a second, but thank you to the Royal Institute, Imperial College and Undaunted Greenhouse for organising today. It's a very special day, and we look forward to seeing the showcases a little bit later on. I'm not going to speak for long, you'll be glad to know, but let me just tell you a little bit about speaking here. I think I said this in December last year. It's quite a daunting place to speak, not because you are so daunting, but because of all the people who have spoken here before over many decades. And I feel pretty humble to be standing here before you today because I'm not a scientist. So you are the scientists and the engineers, and when you're speaking later, I hope you capture the mood and get some great thoughts out into the audience. So, let me get into a few comments. The climate crisis can only be tackled in collaboration with all industry sectors and society in general. And I think you maybe caught the mood of that over the last few days as government starts to make changes to their policies. You know, the mood in the country on such changes is quite interesting. I won't comment on politics, that's not my job. But you can see that people want change and they understand the importance of change at this particular time. Innovators are seizing upon this challenge to help pioneer a new future. These innovators will play a huge role in us reaching net zero in the decades ahead. And we welcome not just your creativity, but also your tenacity, because getting your ideas to market is not easy, and we understand that. Global climate tech investment in 2022, it reached an all-time high, and this will sound like a huge amount of money, at $82 billion. And that was a 19.4% increase year on year. But the bottom line is you need more. We've got a lot to do in a very short time frame. And $3.2 billion of that money was raised in the UK. So the UK is a very, very important home for innovation and fundraising. London is the third biggest startup hub globally after the USA and China. And the UK is bigger than France, Germany, and Sweden put together. So it's a really important market for startup businesses. 25% of venture capital is now directed towards climate technology. I think that will increase in the years ahead. And it's a really important part of HSBC's business. So this year, in March, when we got the chance to buy Silicon Valley Bank, which is famous for helping startups, we took that opportunity. And we are super excited about the opportunities that is then opened up for us, and it's introduced us to many new people, many new opportunities. And I think over the next 10 years, we will see ourselves becoming much closer to the innovation economy at large. A couple of things on climate tech. Growth in climate software, I think, is going to be material and fundamental going forward. Now, I'm on record, I'm a big AI fan. I understand some of the challenges. I understand if it gets into the wrong hands. Bear in mind, fraud is one of our biggest enemies. So I understand the challenges, but I think on balance, AI is going to be a godsend for the industry. And I'm super excited about some of the things that are happening already, even in my industry, but hopefully in the plans that you've got, you can see AI working its way in and helping you, especially on things like health. I think health, all the things on protein today on the back of AI are so important. But secondly, I think beyond that, the climate tech beyond net zero is going to be really important, and we can see a lot of crossover and cross-pollination going forward as well. And I hope we see a lot of great ideas and really courageous thinking on that in the months and years ahead. A couple of bits about HSBC. We announced our ambition to achieve net zero in our own operations by 2030. We will be ahead of that. The challenge for us is to get all our customers net zero by 2050, because we've got to take our customers with us. We bank tens of thousands, millions of customers across the globe. We operate in over 50 countries. Getting all our customers to net zero is not going to be easy. And we've got to do it in a balanced way, in a fair way. So if you're in the fossil fuel industry today and we suddenly tap up and say, look, we're not going to bank you anymore, that's not the way to go about it. You've got to take people on the journey. And we're working very hard on that at the moment, and it's not without its challenge. So fingers crossed we will get there. And we're also helping a lot of our retail customers. Again, we bank millions of retail customers, and helping retail customers understand what they can do to transition to net zero. And if you are close to housing in the UK, you will know that 29 million homes have got to be retrofitted by 2050. That is a huge exercise, and getting the funding and getting the right technology in every home is not without challenge. But we're up for that challenge. We think it's absolutely fundamental to us. Last week, we announced a $1 billion financing incentive for early stage tech and climate innovation. We think that's really important. And I know people say, oh, you bandish out these big numbers. We don't just bandish out the big numbers. We don't go into the market and say there's $1 billion available without it being available. So hopefully, over time, people in this audience can tap into that $1 billion and hopefully get your projects live and commercialized. Because there's lots of great ideas out there, but getting them commercialized is quite a challenge. And finally, through Imperial College's Climate Innovation Programme, we will provide funding for 120 ventures. And we see that as really making a difference at the coalface, helping people in this room, helping people who have been before you, and hopefully helping people who will come after you. It's very important we help businesses bring their ideas to a commercial reality. And that means business skills, mentoring, getting you through the difficult periods. And just when you think you can't get there, we'll hopefully give you a nudge in the right direction to get your product out there. So we're very excited by it. We're delighted to be part of this. We find it very challenging, very stimulating. But at the end of the day, we know that with people like yourselves, with all your creativity and all your tenacity, we can crack this. So I wish you all the very best. And with that now, as promised, it's a very short speech. I will hand you back to Rhea, who will take you through the rest of the agenda. Thank you very much.
Next, a welcoming speech from the Director of Undaunted, the Director of Innovation at the Grantham Institute for Climate Change and the Environment. Please put your hands together for Alyssa Gilbert.
First of all, thank you all for coming here today. It's a really important part of the journey of our innovators when they stand here in the not very, quite intimidating stage and speak about the innovations that they've been working on for nearly a year with us in front of hopefully a friendly and interested audience. So this is a really exciting moment. So thank you for joining us. I just wanted to say, first of all, a few words to thank our sponsors. So thank you very much to Ian and all the others from HSBC UK for supporting the Greenhouse, which is the flagship program of our climate innovation activity. The value of this support is really vital. It enables us to support climate innovators in the way that we want to, which is as part of a public good, helping those innovators focus on building their ideas without being under strain to deliver for investors too early, to help them develop their skills and their ideas so they can focus on the potential environmental and climate impact, as well as their personal development, so that by the end of a year they're ready to get investment and build what is hopefully hugely promising commercial growth, but equally promising growth in terms of the impact that they can have on climate and the environment. So we couldn't do that without the support of HSBC UK. And also our other important supporters, the Greater London Authority and the Mayor of London supports our program in a range of different ways, helping to raise the profile of innovators in London, attract people to this city, and then help us connect to other parts of the UK and the world as we grow the scale up of these innovations. We're also supported by Prince Albert of Monaco Foundation, who support a few of our startups. And we've been supported for this cohort that you're going to see also by the European Union Regional Development Funds. So that's how we make this happen. Just one further word, Undaunted, which is how we feel, but also what we're doing in the face of climate change, has the Greenhouse, this innovation acceleration piece at its heart. But we also work very hard, because we're based at Imperial College, to try and build a pipeline of ideas that can come in and grow, become these early stage innovations. So if you or people you know are interested in becoming climate innovators, or they have an idea that at the moment is just on the back of the envelope, we're really keen to speak to you and help you develop that so that one day you might also be on this stage. Equally, we spend a really active part of our time trying to build, invest, and develop the ecosystem in London, the UK as a whole, with global connections to help our innovators thrive after they've completed what they're going to talk to you about today. So, very warm welcome. I'll be speaking again a bit later about some of our other programs, but for now, I'm going to pass over back to Rhea so that you can hear about the work of our exciting innovators.
Many thanks to both of our opening speakers there. It is almost time to hear from the first group of climate innovators this afternoon, and each team will deliver a short pitch about their innovation and their vision, and also how you might be able to support them today. We are inviting you, the audience, to submit questions to each of the team, and you can do that via Mentimeter, which is accessed via your screen, via your phone rather, and you'll see details of this just on the screen behind me. You access this via menti.com. You can scan the QR code, as I see many of you are already doing, and enter the code 1405157. That's 1405157. Again, all of the details are on the screen. If you're struggling with Wi-Fi, details of that, I believe, are also on the screen. There is publicly accessible Wi-Fi with the password there too. And then a few of the questions that you submit will be submitted to each team to answer, and we're going to try and keep things as tight as possible, so please do be fairly quick with getting those questions in. Now, after hearing all of the pitches in each section this afternoon, we would also like to ask you to submit a score for each of the team on some key areas, and you can do that again via Mentimeter. The three areas for you to score are, firstly, the commercial impact, commercial potential rather, the climate impact of the innovation, and the quality of the pitch. And then at the end of the event, we'll be announcing the three highest scoring teams who will all receive an award. Right, with that all out of the way, let's get to the good stuff, and time to introduce the first exciting innovators to the stage. To kick off today, our first section is entitled Circular Economy and Low Carbon Materials. And please welcome, to kick things off, Team Repair with the founder, Megan.
What do you want science lessons to be like for your children? Well, I think they should look like this. A collection of wow moments where children start to realise how the real world works. My name's Megan, the CEO and co-founder of Team Repair, and this isn't how I remember science lessons. I remember endless exams and textbooks, which left me disengaged and with a lack of confidence in science. Our education system is struggling. 64% of schools have a shortage of science teachers, and this is only going to get worse. This isn't the way we should be educating the next generation of scientists and engineers that need to solve the world's biggest problems. So introducing Team Repair. We found a way to put the wow moments back into the science classroom, so it looks a bit more like this: encouraging curiosity, determination, and empowering children with how the real world works. We've developed a program that sends children gadgets, and it's their job to figure out what's wrong and how to fix them. As they take apart the gadgets, they learn curriculum science topics in the real world. So to learn about electric circuits, we send them a games console. To learn about lenses, they fix a microscope. We empower teachers with all the tools they need to deliver hands-on, impactful science lessons, without the need for expertise or lots of lesson planning time. We have competitors that offer STEM kits that are built once, played for a bit, and then thrown away. But here's how we're different. We're teaching real science with real products. We're teaching the life skill of repair, combining STEM and sustainability education. And we have a novel circular business model. We pick toys that children would love to play with. We then engineer in specific faults into the toys and send them to children to fix. And once they've finished with the repair, the schools send them back to us, so we can re-implement the faults for the next child. We're on a mission to prove that circular businesses can be low cost and highly profitable, given that we have a positive gross margin from the first time we send out one of our kits. We also have diverse revenue channels. With exactly the same kit, we've been able to sell to parents, schools and councils, and corporates for sponsorship, which shows massive market opportunities. From this learning, we've decided we want to focus on schools, as it would be the most profitable and impactful place for us to start. So we've set ourselves a goal. In 5 years' time, we want to be in 5,000 schools. This would mean reaching over 1 million children a year and a potential annual recurring revenue of £34 million. After reaching this goal, we want to develop other programs, a digital offering, and launch globally. We started as a team of engineers who spent the last 5 years developing products together. Now, we have global media coverage. We have been supported by world-leading organisations. We've reached over 1,000 children, and we have over 100 schools in the pipeline for the rest of this year. This means that we've been able to reach profitability this month. We've been able to do all of this with the support of Greenhouse in just 1 year. Now, we need your support to be able to increase our capacity. Today, we're looking for initial conversations with investors for a raise early next year and connections to schools, councils, institutions, and corporates looking to sponsor. So if you care about engaging the next generation of scientists and engineers, join us in our mission to fix the future. So I'd like to have my COO and CPO, Anais and Oscar, join me for the questions. Thank you for listening.
Very well done. So please do use the details on the screen to enter menti.com and to ask any questions you might have. And to begin, Megan, perhaps for one of your team, tell us about who your competitors are and how you differ.
We are currently the only education provider that are combining electrical repairing with STEM education. However, our biggest competitors within the STEM kit place are companies such as KiwiCo and Mel Science. They sell classroom kits as well, retailing from £7 per head to around £15 per head, and that is where we lie ourselves. However, we're differing from them with the USPs that Meg mentioned, like our hands-on applicability to the real world. There are also kits from companies such as Sphero and Lego Minds. They provide classroom kits which are retailing at a much higher price, around £2,000 to £3,000, which are then can be kept by the school. So it's a slightly different rental model, but per head it calculates the same.
Yeah, okay. And how about the age that this is designed for, and why you've picked that age group?
So our age is 10 to 14-year-olds. We've selected that because it's been identified by studies to be the golden age for getting children, particularly girls, interested in science and technology before critical decisions like choosing GCSE subjects.
And we've had a question in asking how you obtain the objects to be repaired. How do you go about doing that?
Oscar, do you want to?
Yeah, so all of the gadgets that we engineer and fault to are available from OEMs, manufacturers. So we get them straight from there. So that's enough capacity and scale for when we do scale up. And then we engineer in the faults ourselves so that they teach the lessons that we want to teach.
Brilliant. And another question, and please explain how you generate revenue.
Yeah, sure. So this time last year when we first started, we were generating revenue from our focus groups in workshops with councils. So we got paid to do that, and we got around £30,000 of revenue doing that. And then in April, we soft launched our at-home service, and we got £6,000 in revenue doing that. And we saw it as a massive opportunity, but now we actually want to use those parents as ambassadors to get us into schools, because we found it's much easier as well getting the returns from schools than at home. And then this month we launched in schools. So it's been a very intense month talking to lots of schools, renting our kits into schools, but that's allowed us to now reach over £10,000 of revenue this month.
Brilliant. Another question then asks, do you have the current team needed to reach your 950,000 student goal? And if not, what expertise do you need on your team to do so?
Yeah, sure. I think we've each got a bit for this question. So the 950,000 is in 5 years' time. So we've got a lot of time to grow and scale. I'd say the two challenges to get there is reaching out to schools, which Anais is focusing on, and Oscar is focusing on the scalability of our operations.
Yeah, so our beachhead into schools is academy trusts and independent schools, because they have those budgets readily available. However, our core mission is to make STEM accessible for children everywhere, and so obviously our target is state schools. They don't currently necessarily have the budget, and so to be able to fund those, we're working with councils who have already proven that they're willing to give us grants and money to help the local schools in the area. And then the big one we'd like to target is corporates and engineering technology firms. We are providing them with a very clear way for how they can create impact and sponsor local schools. And we'd be very interested if there's anyone in the crowd today who wants to continue that conversation at our stall later on.
Then scalability of operations as well.
Yeah, so also to mention, we have a great board of advisors as well who are helping us with our expertise, pointing out where we need more help. And yeah, specifically on logistics, we know our two main challenges is sourcing stock, which I just mentioned, and fulfilling stock. So we're in talks with fulfillment centres who are working with us. We've got quotes for both the rebreaking of the gadgets and the fulfillment of deliveries. So we are confident that we can scale with fulfillment centres.
Okay, Team Repair, we are at time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I know there were some further questions there. Don't worry, if you have any questions, you can ask each of the teams directly during the networking session, and in each break they will be in the networking area, so you can ask those questions directly. That brings us on to the next team, Team Cool, and over to CTO Tommy.
I didn't see anything. That's good. That's true. Congrats, guys.
Good afternoon. We're Cool. We're a UK-based carbon storage and utilisation company with a mission to close the carbon cycle.
They're like, there is it. They're like, they were.
is going on?
And I got a lot slower.
There's a really many people.
Yes, yes.
And we come. So it should be cool.
It's estimated to be over 40 billion tons a year. To reach our net zero goals by 2050, we know that we must deploy CCUS.
Guys.
This is particularly true for point source emitters, such as power plants and cement factories, which collectively account for roughly half of the global emissions. However, currently the global CCUS deployment level is only about 40 million tons a year. So depending on the study, the global CCUS uptake needs to increase by over 100-fold by 2050 to reach our net zero goals. However, most CCUS solutions available today do not simultaneously fulfill the 3 key criteria for exponential growth. That is profitability, scalability, and carbon storage permanency. In particular, the profitability issue is prominent. For example, geological storage paired with carbon capture can store millions of tons of CO2 even as of today. However, this process creates no byproduct, and it costs CO2 emitters well over $100 to store just 1 ton of CO2. Alternatively, CO2 could be turned into various other products, such as fuel or minerals, but these processes are very rarely cash flow positive. This is where we want to make a difference. Cool's technology can potentially simultaneously fulfill the 3 key criteria, that's profitability, scalability, and carbon storage permanency. We do this by converting the CO2 from point source emitters into this versatile raw material named carbon nanotubes. So what are CNTs? Well, with naked eye, they often look like this black carbon powder, much like graphite. However, they have this very unique cylindrical nanostructure, and as a result, they have incredible mechanical, thermal, and electrical properties. Very importantly, CNTs are incredibly stable, making the carbon storage effectively permanent. So thanks to these amazing properties, CNTs have found numerous applications in a large array of sectors, from aviation to automotive to energy storage and microelectronics. And the global CNT market is estimated to be about $100 billion by 2030. Importantly, CNTs are often used as additives to create high-performance products, which are lighter, stronger, or has higher efficiency. So through that, we can create further CO2 abatement by either using less material or replacing conventional materials with higher carbon footprint. At the moment, we're constructing and developing our first pilot plant in collaboration with industrial partners in the energy and manufacturing sectors. With that, we hope to demonstrate generating up to 8,000 British pounds of revenue from just 1 ton of CO2. And in the long term, we believe that our technology has the potential to sequester millions of tons of CO2 per year. And we hope to create much more CO2 abatement by creating CNT-enhanced products. And for that, we're already carrying out research and development with potential CNT off-takers. It is our mission to become one of the main contributors towards our net zero goals. So if you represent, or if you have contact in point source emitter, potential CNT users, or waste energy companies, please get in touch, and we'd love to explore potential collaborations. Thank you.
Tommy, and for battling through a few technical errors at the start there, but it happens. It's a live event. Right, time now for your questions. Again, please use menti.com to get those in using the QR code on the screen now. And Tommy, starting with a question about the main applications of carbon nanotubes.
So, as I mentioned briefly, they're mostly used as additives in a variety of sectors. For example, we use CNTs as a conductive additive to mix into polymers, plastics. And with that, we create conductive plastics, and that's often used in pretty much all of our cars in fuel lines and fuel tanks to prevent static. And they're also very commonly used as a strength-enhancing additive in a variety of sort of composite material applications. And the other main application, which I did my sort of research on, was using carbon nanotubes in batteries in a variety of energy storage applications. And one of our potential biggest area of exploration is to use CNTs in cement and concrete, because they're simultaneously a large CO2 emitter and a potential user of carbon nanotubes.
We've had a question in about whether your approach will also work with graphene.
The idea will be similar, but the process of making graphene, well, it's a different technology, in short. I don't know how interesting it would be for me to go into the technical details.
Maybe that's one to
but
save for
I would love
networking.
to have a conversation later at the stand.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, another question in, how close are you to full technical proof of concept?
The pilot plant, basically. So we know that our technology works on laboratory scale, but for those who've done research, we know that it takes a lot to upscale what is on a tabletop to industrial scale to what actually makes a difference in real life. And although we have plenty of data to back us, simulation and so on and so forth, to me, our main hurdle is to actually prove this at scale. And thankfully, we have a lot of interest from the industry to share the risk with us and to develop the pilot plant with us. So yeah, I'll say that's, in terms of timeline, the next 2 to 3 years, hopefully, maybe 1 to 2 years. Fingers crossed.
Okay. How do you measure how much carbon has been utilized?
So we have an internal life cycle analysis expert, which helps. But also, before we carry out any project, as part of the feasibility study, we actually do a full-size life cycle analysis to, well, obviously, the sort of the door-to-cradle calculation really varies, depends on where the CO2 comes from, the location, the resources you have, the end application, and so on and so forth. But in any case, it will be carbon neutral to negative, and depending how dirty the CO2 is, it gets basically more negative. So it's a case-by-case basis.
Another question asks, do you have any competition currently?
There is another sort of stream of technology that makes carbon nanotubes from CO2, but they use a completely different technology, which we think is inferior, and we have, but genuinely I think it's inferior. And if you're interested, I'll be more than happy to dig into that. But in terms of CO2 to CNT, that's really our only competition, and they've gone fairly quiet. And in terms of sort of other CCUS technologies, to be honest, in my opinion, it's more of a collaborative effort rather than competition, because there's so much more CO2 than the technologies out there that could digest them. So actually almost every sort of company that we talk to, which are massive CO2 emitters, is actually better. I think the future will be to have a tailored solution for them, which incorporates various technologies from storage to various utilization techs, depending on basically the local conditions and so on and so forth.
Okay, that brings us to time, Tommy. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That brings us on to the third pitch of the afternoon, to Team Cresco next. And please put your hands together to welcome Ed.
Hi there, everyone. So in 2020, 3.5% of the UK's annual emissions were as a result of a single building material, plasterboard. This material, hidden in our walls, is the third most used construction product on the planet, and yet despite this, its impact is often overlooked. The carbon resulting from constructing a building is called embodied carbon. We need to reduce the embodied carbon within construction by 40% by 2030 if we're to reach net zero targets. Ubiquitous and carbon-heavy materials, like plasterboard, present a major blocker to this. This is the problem that we're trying to solve at Cresco. We have a novel approach to creating new, low-carbon construction materials that uses waste and biomanufacturing. At Cresco, we believe the future is grown. We're tackling this massive problem with the tiniest of solutions, bacteria. Nature provides us with a bacteria that's capable of doing something amazing. They grow stone. We can harness this stone-growing bacteria as a binder to glue together waste products to create new low-carbon materials, like these low-carbon wallboards that you can see here. We estimate that these have at a minimum a 70% reduction in CO2 emissions and can even be made to be carbon neutral. We're now developing a range of different wallboard materials with different properties to meet different market needs, from fire resistance to transport durability and insulative properties. We're able to take a blend of different feedstock materials and, combined with our platform binding technology, create new material outputs with different properties. These feedstock materials range from waste aggregates like quarry fines to natural fibers and agricultural byproducts. By taking a blend of these different products and mixing it with our bacteria, we're able to create new, different material outputs. Materials like quarry fines are not only waste products, they're also available in vast quantities. Over 2 million tons are produced each year in the UK alone. By focusing on these large quantity waste streams, we're able to produce our materials at a quantity that's valuable to the construction industry. Our process involves taking a blend of these materials, mixing it with our bacteria, and supplying it with the correct nutrients to induce the formation of limestone. We're designing this process to be, from the beginning, to be scalable by focusing in particular on reducing the times that materials have to stay in molds. We've already reduced this from days to just a few hours. So to summarize, our materials are naturally fire resistant, they use abundant waste feed sources, and they have short molding times, which means that they can be scaled. We've already used this process to create some prototype interior products, like this table and decorative tiles that are made using waste bound together using our process. Our route to market involves using the design products market as a way to organically scale our manufacturing processes, whilst at the same time bringing visibility to our products, with the eventual goal of scaling to produce low-carbon construction boards for the low-carbon materials industry. This is expected to be worth $673 billion by 2030, and it's growing at 10% year on year. So right now we're a small company. In fact, we're a two-person team. As you can see, both very focused on our work and very interested in the environment and passionate about manufacturing. Together, we started Cresco just over a year ago, and in that time, we developed our process and a range of different products. We've recently received Innovate UK funding and are working in collaboration with Northumbria University to ensure the scalability of our manufacturing processes. At the beginning of Q1 next year, we'll be filing a patent for our process, and in Q2, we'll be raising a round of funding of approximately £300,000, which we'll be using to do pilot projects within industry and also certify the materials that we produce. If you're an investor or work within construction or in architecture, then we'd love to have a conversation with you about low-carbon materials in the construction sector. Thank you so much for your time and attention. I welcome any questions you have.
Okay, time for questions. And Ed, it sounds like you're developing for non-structural applications. Can you explain why that is?
Yes. So obviously, within construction, you have a range of different materials. Some of those are structural, some of those are non-structural. We've gone for non-structural materials specifically because there's much less red tape in terms of certification for those products. So we don't have to jump over as many bars before we can get our products into the market.
Do you have any idea of the pricing compared to plasterboard?
Yeah, so for us, obviously, pricing is a big deal. The construction industry is very price sensitive. The way that we're thinking about this is that the feedstock materials that we're using are often waste products, and so that already brings the cost of our materials down from the start. The main cost of our materials comes from the manufacturing, and on the manufacturing side, we've reduced our molding times, which obviously reduce our costs also. So by this, we're not getting completely comparative to plasterboard, but we're expecting that in the future we'll be in the 1.5 to 3 times the price range compared to plasterboard as we have scaled and depending on the scale that we manage to meet. Also in the short term, compared to other low carbon material alternatives that are available in the market today, we actually come in at under the cost of those products. So initially we wouldn't be competing with plasterboard, we'd be competing with these other low carbon products which are available today.
A question from one of the audience, does the waste need to be pure? Could you use, for example, timber waste?
Interesting question. So we haven't explored it. The waste streams that we're looking at, the quarry fines, for instance, they're already quite pure waste streams, even though they're available at very, very large scales. In terms of wood waste, it works with a very large variety of different materials, and so there's definitely potential to have even some variability in the waste, and that wouldn't affect our final material properties too much. Especially given that we're looking at non-structural applications, again, we have a lot more leeway in terms of the mechanical properties of the materials that we're producing. So that definitely is an option, yeah.
How fast can you grow a 1 metre 3 board?
How fast can we grow a metre square board? So this comes in sort of 3 steps. So there's the first step, which is the culturing the bacteria. That takes between 12 and 24 hours, which you can do in a continuous or a batch process. Then there's the second step, which is the molding step, where you're actually forming the shape and morphology of the board. And that takes up to 2 hours at the moment, but we're looking at reducing that further. And then there's a curing step, which actually allows the bacteria to grow. This doesn't require mold or anything. It's basically just setting aside the board for a set of time. And that's up to 2 days that takes.
Okay, so that's per metre squared board. Another question asks, are there issues with breathability or mold resistance in the material?
So obviously, we've got a live bacteria in there when we're growing it, and so people might think, oh, that's going to make things moldy, but that shouldn't really be an issue for us. For breathability, our boards are breathable. The breathability depends on the different feedstock materials that you're putting in there, of course, but the binding material, the limestone itself, remains porous, and so that's really advantageous for us, because for board materials, mold and breathability are a big issue.
How do you plan to reuse or recycle the waste material of the product?
So is that, if that was the waste material, once we've taken our board and it goes to waste at the end of life, we could actually recycle that again by dissolving the limestone out of that product and using that back through our process. So we do actually have options in terms of circularity for these products where you can reuse the same chemicals over and over again through the process to feed new bacteria and reform. So, yeah.
That brings us to time. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
And again, a reminder, if there are any questions that you would like to ask any of those pitching today, you will find them all at tables in the networking session. That brings us on to the penultimate pitch of this section. And next, representing Shady Club, please put your hands together for Fatima.
Okay, happy Tuesday, everyone. My name is Fatima. I'm a co-founder and the CEO of Shady Club. And, let's start again, huh? I'm the co-founder and CEO of Shady Club, and we're breaking the barrier to conscious shopping. So 4 in 5 people want to buy conscious fashion. And so I'm talking about products, new products that are sustainably made. But only 1 in 5 can actually find sustainable fashion. And there are 2 real barriers to this. One is there are very few search options out there, so it's very hard to find. And the second is information overload. There's just so much sustainability data out there. And so what we do is we make it easy with Shade. Shade is a browser extension that integrates itself into the user's existing shopping journey. And it provides a seamless experience that is in a segment worth 10 billion today. So as you can see on the left, that's someone shopping with Shade. And on the right, you'll see someone shopping without Shade. We present the sustainability ratings while a shopper is actually using Shade. They'd be able to make informed decisions, and if they find something that they like, they can use the wand, click on the image, and we will find something that is similar in style, but from a conscious brand. You then get directed to their website, and you can make the purchase. While I've been explaining this to you, as you can see, if you're shopping without shade, that person's still trying to figure out whether Skims is sustainable. So by offering a search option that actually uses images rather than words, and by providing ESG credentials while you're shopping, we are breaking that barrier to conscious shopping by making it easy and effortless and rewarding. Just in 6 months, we were able to go beyond our beta product, and we've now soft launched onto the Chrome store. And our metrics are pretty impressive. We have 500 monthly shopping sessions with a 25% click-through rate. Our users are spoiled for choice. We give them 70,000 products, and we can detect 4,000 brands. In terms of traction, we have 700 unique social media followers. We have 480 people signed up to our newsletter. But the real value of shade is demonstrated by the product usage. Our users have been talking about how the technology is friendly, is style-centric, and it's actually been changing the way they actually shop for conscious fashion. And we have a 5-star rating on Google, so that's fun. So this is our team. Jenny and I are the founders of Shady Club. We are both innovation design engineers, experts in user experience interaction design, environmental science, and data analytics. And we're supported by a fantastic team with knowledge ranging from digital technologies all the way through to consumer behavior. So we just kicked off our affiliate marketing B2C model. We have officially partnered with 12 brands. We earn 10% in commission from every sale made. And I'm proud to say that just last month, we started earning a little bit of revenue. And in parallel to that, we've got an interest from markets and retailers. They're interested in our technology, and so we're discussing potential partnership opportunities, and what we've identified is the potential to use software licensing as our B2B revenue stream. So this brings me to our ask. We are raising £350,000 to expand our team, to scale our technology faster than we've already been doing, and to really grow our B2B channel. And so together, I really do believe that we can break this barrier towards conscious shopping by making it easy, effortless, and rewarding, and that will drive that sustainability within the fashion industry. Thank you, and ready for questions.
I'm joined by your team. Yes. Hi. Okay, time for questions. We start with one about what distinguishes you from sustainable marketplaces. What makes you different?
So there are two key factors that makes us different from a sustainable marketplace. One is that we have very low operational costs, and the reason for that is because we don't hold inventory. And the other is really around sustainable fashion marketplaces themselves create sort of high friction already for the shopping journey for customers. And it's because a customer still would have to go and search, okay, sustainable marketplaces, right? Whereas for us, we turn every website into a platform for finding and comparing and buying sustainable fashion. So we make it a lot easier.
A question asks which shops this works with.
I'll answer that one. Is this working? So Shade works with all of the major marketplaces that are out there, from ASOS to Urban Outfitters, the iconic Selfridges. We try to work with also a range of those marketplaces that go from, you know, the typical stores you might see on a high street to also the higher end. Yeah.
Could this be used for other sectors, for example, furniture, electronics, or food?
Yeah, for sure. We, at the moment, are focusing on fashion, but of course, in other areas, it would be the same. You'd be able to, I guess, filter and put forward the ratings, the sustainability ratings, just the same as you would. Yeah.
Do you have any further questions? Yes. How do you determine the ratings of products online?
So the ratings. So the ratings actually come from a third party. There's a company called Good On You. They're a rating, they've created a rating system, like an approach, that is based on assessing companies' public data. What we do is they raise the awareness amongst consumers, and what we do is we make that data accessible. That's part of our mission.
Brilliant, okay. And any further questions? Yes. Are you planning a mobile app, as lots of shopping obviously happens on mobile?
Yeah, definitely. This is absolutely in our roadmap. We're looking at also developing our own marketplace, something that's available on mobile as well as desktop. Something we saw in our research as to why we first focused on desktop is really the fact that, well, while a lot of browsing occurs on mobile, the main purchases are all happening on the desktop. So someone will look at products, figure out, okay, I really want to buy this. 1 week later, okay, I'm going to go on my laptop to actually put in my credit card information and make that purchase. So we want to catch that moment where there's the transition in the behavior of buying something and divert that to conscious shopping.
And how about your customer acquisition costs?
I can get that one. Yeah, so for our customer acquisition costs, right now our users are all coming from organic growth. So right now we have 0 customer acquisition costs. We've been able to get that from press and from focusing on the community inside the sustainable fashion world. And that's been really great because what we see is there's a lot of engagement in that space and they're willing to sort of share the word and spread it around, and that's been great.
Brilliant. My eyesight is going to let me down here, so let me look there. How are the partnerships with new businesses achieved, and who makes the first approach?
I'll answer that. So partnerships with new businesses. The way that we had actually initially done it was we would approach the brand, we'd do a cold email. So the products that we recommend are for brands rated good or great by Good On You. And so we first did like a reach out cold email. That wasn't working very well. And so what we decided was we'll use our technology. What we do is we end up scraping their products, putting it up there, and they've been noticing, they've been getting sales through it. And so they've now been coming and approaching us about it. And yeah, it's been working well.
Brilliant. I think that brings us to time on questions. Thank you very much indeed. Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. So to our final pitch now in this section, please put your hands together to welcome from Dye Recycle, it's Ada.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Zaida Rafat. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Dye Recycle, and today I'll tell you how we give dyes and fibers a second chance. The fashion and textile industry has several challenges across its supply chain. First, we have the upstream challenge related to the very well-known and documented dyeing pollution and the water-intensive dyeing operations. Up to 24% of garment climate impact is related to dyeing our clothes. In the downstream of the industry, we have even a bigger challenge related to textile waste and the massive volumes of textile waste that is generated, and all the challenges related to fiber recycling technologies. Dyes and colorants are considered to be one of the main contaminations in the textile waste, and that can largely prohibit and limit textile recycling back to new textiles. And today, there is no efficient and clean way to decolor those textile waste fibers. What if we can find a way to connect those two seemingly unrelated challenges using one solution? How? Simple. Transfer the dyes from the old clothes to the new clothes. And this way, you end up with decolored fibers that can be now more easily and efficiently recycled back to new clothes. And at the same time, you will have new clothes that are more sustainably dyed with recycled dyes. So there's no need to manufacture new dyes. And this is in a nutshell how the dye recycle technology works. So we have developed a new chemical process that has the ability to selectively extract the dyes from the fibers without destroying the dyes and without destroying the fibers. And that essentially allows those two components to be recycled back to the supply chain. The exciting and important part is that there is almost no loss in performance, which basically means we can supply back the fashion industry with unlimited vibrant colors, while at the same time we have this decolored material that can be spun back into new textiles. So we transform a low textile waste into two valuable commodity products. Our commercial strategy is going to evolve as we grow. At the moment, we are at the innovation pilot stage where we are conducting minimum viable pilots with multiple global brands and fiber recyclers to validate our unique value propositions of fiber decolorization and recycled dyeing. We're just closing our first funding round, which means that we will get us one step closer to the supply chain integration milestone, where we are going to license our technology to early tech adapters to integrate the technology to dye houses and textile mills. And that naturally will take us to the last stage, which is the expansion and growth of licensing the technology to large textile manufacturers around the world. The founders behind this technology is myself. I'm a chemical engineer, and I have a PhD in chemical engineering from Imperial College London, and I'm also a Royal Academy of Engineering Enterprise Fellow. And my co-founder is Jason Hallett. He's a professor in sustainable chemical technology development in Imperial College. This summer, we've been very lucky. We have been one of the winners of the Global Change Award by Global Change Award by H&M Foundation. And it's one of the most prestigious awards in the textile and fashion innovation world. And we've just embarked on a one-year journey to accelerate our business and technology with them. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all our supporters. Although we're only 1 year old, we have been very lucky to get a lot of traction and support. And as you know, building a company, you really need a tribe. And as I stand here today in a room full of incredible people, I'm very excited to meet as many of you as possible and build my relationships with you and find ways to work with each other. Thank you very much.
Ada, thank you very much. Well done. Time for questions now. And again, please use the details on the screen to submit your questions now. Starting with a question about the technology. Is it capital intensive?
That's actually also one of our additional unique value propositions, is that it's not. So we think of it as a plug-in technology, so we don't really need any specialized equipment, which is incredibly important whenever it comes to developing a new chemical technology. So we're going to be using the existing dyeing machines.
Another question asks, can you use any textile waste, or do you need to filter the waste first, and if so, how?
So there are already established textile sorting businesses. So what we will be doing is that we will partner with those textile waste sorters, and they will be supplying to us the sorted textile waste.
What are the CO2 savings of this process?
So we did a preliminary life cycle assessment, which is basically the tool that we use in order to understand the greenhouse gas emissions reductions. And we can see that the fact that we are eliminating the need to bring in new dyes into the dyeing process, and also we are enabling a more efficient fiber recycling technology, that combined effect, we can actually save up to 85% of the greenhouse gas emissions.
How much does the color and pigmentation degrade with each extraction?
So at the moment, we don't really kind of see a huge change in performance. So we can actually capture similar colors up to 80 to 90% of the initial color.
And a further question asks, do you have much competition?
Not really, surprisingly. So there are competitors at both ends, kind of. So, for example, our competitors in the sustainable dyeing part would be the natural dyes or like bacterial dyes. So it's not really a direct competition. So we're the first people to actually recycle existing dyes.
Will the recycled dyes be friendly to sensitive skin, asks one audience member.
Not really. So it's basically the same as the existing dyes that everybody's wearing at the moment in this room. So there isn't going to be any sensitivity.
And is the fibre and product sorted by type, for example, wool, cotton, synthetic?
Yes, that's typically the sorting that the sorters handle. The material is typically sorted by composition as well as color.
Who do you see as your customers and suppliers?
So in an own and operate model, the customers would be directly the retailers and the brands for the dyeing part. And for the fiber part, we will be supplying the decolored fibers to mechanical and chemical fiber recyclers. So we will have, because we have two products, so basically we have two customers.
Mm-hmm. And can you create new colors with the recycled dyes?
Yeah, that's basically the exciting part. We are in the lab just basically mixing different dye baths to create a new color. So it is basically, is doable.
A rainbow lab. Does your process require water?
So it does require water for the washing, but also because it is a solvent-based process, so we have also like a quite significant water reduction in the overall footprint.
And do we have time for a final question in this section? Yes. Is this specific to cotton or is it all fabric types?
So at the moment, we're actually focusing mostly on synthetic fabrics, so mostly polyester and nylon, and we're moving towards polycotton slowly, and then eventually cotton, because it is the most challenging, actually.
Okay, I think that brings us to time. Yes, Ada, thank you very much. Well done.
Thank you.
A huge well done to all of the innovators in this inspiring round of first pitches this afternoon. I'm now going to just give you a few moments to score each of the teams that you've seen. Please use the QR code that you see above. Menti.com is the address you need, and the code that you need to enter is 1405127. That's 1405127. And you may need to refresh your browser page or click onto the next button for it all to work. So I'll just give you a few moments to do that. Before we kick off with the next lineup of really brilliant innovators, I want to ask you to join me in welcoming for our speech, for our guest speaker to introduce this section, the CEO of the change-making agency Futera. Please welcome to the stage, Lucy Shea.
Thank you.
Can you hear me okay? Yes. Thank you so much for the warm welcome, and I really am delighted to be here today. So I'm the CEO of Futera, and I am an entrepreneur working on climate and sustainability every day. Do we have the slides ready to go? I'm using the clicker, that's good. Thank you. Obviously, I'm well used to a presentation. Here we are. So I thought what I could bring today, I thought about a few things, you know, my inspirational journey as an entrepreneur. And then I thought, you know what, I am a really busy working mum, CEO, entrepreneur. Life is too short. I'm going to try and bring something of use. So I hope what I bring is of use to you in honing your pitches and thinking about the solutions that you're selling. So Futera, change agency, we've got 20 years experience of basically selling sustainability. And whether that's developing public campaigns or working with our clients to hone their solutions, or I mean, you wouldn't believe the amount of pitch decks I've done to boards. We always say, if you're having to do pitch deck after, you know, sell deck after sell deck after sell deck, you're onto a good thing. You're trying to persuade someone to do something that hasn't been done before. So I hope what I can bring is a little bit of that. But just before I go into that, this is what Futera believes and stands for even. I don't think we've got any audio.
Thank you. Long word for short attention spans. Put simply, it's the human age. You human beings are having such an impact on the planet. You've
Talking
got a
about
whole
the
geological
Anthropocene.
era named after you. The people who invented smartphones and spaceships and architecture and language, toilets, art, science, education and dancing and power and plastic and whatever that is, and dancing and deforestation, exclusion, pollution and poverty and climate change. The Anthropocene is us, all of us, a species whose DNA is made of mistakes and miracles. Sure, we made the problems, but we are the solution. And you're the answer, one of the dreamers and shapers, builders and makers, someone with the power to make the Anthropocene awesome. This is your future, so choose your own adventure. And remember, folks, if you want to dodge an apocalypse, then you better aim for awesome.
So that's our mission, make the Anthropocene awesome. I'll tell you a little bit about what we do in a moment. That's our team, or at least some of our team, spread over the UK, and we've got offices in London, I'll go over here for a sec, London and New York, Mexico City. We work all over the world. We're also part of Race to Zero, UN Climate. We're the first professional services firm, so basically we are a consultancy, but as a consultancy, we're the first professional services firm to get climate solutions provider status. And what that means is we don't think about, well, we do think about our operational footprint, but mainly we think about the work that we do, the strategies we write for our clients, the communications campaigns we put together, and that is where our material impact is. We are very fortunate to work with fantastic clients, but the first thing I want to bring to you is we're really in a pivot moment right now. I think the people in this room are probably more aware of that than most, but we are facing a crossroads at the moment between our traditional extractive and exploitative economy and the solutions economy. And again, the closer you are to working on climate and sustainability, often the more optimistic you are. But I spend a lot of time talking to a lot of people around the world who are thinking, oh, is it too late? And are the pathways to 1.5 degree changing? And that's because we planned climate action in a relatively linear way. It kind of makes sense. It thinks that's how change happens. Change does not happen in this way. So the first thing I kind of want to bring to you is if you're ever thinking, oh God, it's too late, and will my solution make enough of a difference? And can we actually get there to solutions economy? Yes, we can. These are various graphs of how social change happens, from adoption of new tech to adoption of equal rights marriage, and this hockey stick is prevalent through and through, and it kind of makes sense, because as people, we don't really like change. We only have a limited attention span. We like things to stay the same, and we only, and that's why I say it's a pivot moment, change when it's become too difficult to continue on. So that first line, how we planned climate action, it's not going to happen that way. We're going to take a hockey stick moment up, and that's where we are right now. And so over to you guys. Obviously, this is all of our careers for the rest of our lives is moving from that extractive, exploitative economy to the solutions economy. So how are we going to do that? Well, I'll bring you, I'm going to canter really quickly over some of our work and get to some of the insights that we've had in this last 20 years of working on this. So we're fortunate enough to work with fantastic people like Google. We wrote their circular strategy, their carbon strategy, but even our deep technical work is based on insights and human insights. And the insight we found for Google was waste is a data problem. Actually, it's just waste being in the wrong place at the wrong time. So that insight then powered the circular strategy we put together for Google. Econil, a great solution in the fashion space, entrepreneurial story. It's not our pet, it's recycled polymers that are high grades, can go round and round and round. We worked with Econil on the positioning of that, which they say was their kind of jumping off point for the huge partnerships they brought in with Prada and others. And Formula One of my favorites. When we first got that gig, it was like, oh, really? Formula One? Can we? And for me, well, we took them net zero back in 2018, a commitment to be net zero by 2030. But for me, the big win here is not necessarily the footprint. The carbon footprint, when you look at Formula One, shows that engine, that Formula One engine that races round is 0.0001% of their carbon footprint. But it is 100% of the brain print, the entertainment spectacle, what brings new audience in. And so the work that I'm most proud of with Formula One is the work to bring in synthetic fuels, because the spillover effect of that, if you can do drop-in synthetic fuels to 1.5 billion road vehicles overnight, then that's the solutions economy. So the reason I say all this is that I want to bring you a little bit of that magic and logic, or that kind of behavioural perspective that we've learned over the years. And this is my family. Every entrepreneur should have their family story, of course. And I bring you this because this was a moment where the work that we've been doing around climate communication strategy for the UK government and on behaviour change really came real to me. So I used to spend all my summers going to Ireland as a kid. I hadn't been back for about 10 years in that kind of terrible teenage, like, Mum, I don't want to go to Ireland way. And in my early 20s, got tempted back. It was an aunt's 50th, and we all, gathered as the Shays. And there was this moment when my aunties who smoked, I was shocked because the impact on, basically the half of the family that didn't smoke looked in pretty good nick. The half of the family that did smoke were not so healthy. And I returned to the Futera office. I was a smoker at the time. And I suddenly realized that my Futera colleagues, they were saying some quite odd things to me. They're like, they were saying, you just never really struck me as a smoker. Or now that you've met Aldo, my then new boyfriend, do you think you'll continue smoking? Or other things. And I gave up smoking. And I realized what had happened to me. For those that know, and it was the insights the Futera team were given to me were all from this evidence base we pulled together about how to change hearts and minds on climate change. That they'd knocked up some big behavioural kind of bats on me. Transition zones when I was meeting a new boyfriend, going into potentially a new part of my life. Social proof, no one else in Futera is smoking. Symbolic self-completion, that you don't look like a smoker, and salience, those smoking aunties with the salience, what would happen to my skin. I'd like to reassure you, we all gave up in my family after this. It wasn't just me. So why I bring this to you is that this thinking about how we're going to sell our solutions is critical. And we know that folks are interested. So if you look around, Google Trends, for example, shows that people are searching on how to live a sustainable lifestyle. The Google Trends analysis or data shows that these searches are up 4,550%. And I love search data because it's kind of what I consider to be the real data, rather than necessarily the surveys where we always slightly overstate how good we are or what we're doing. So that's good. And as some stats from my colleague's book, How to Be a Solutionist by Solitaire Townsend, our co-founder. Hope is a business plan. In all of these areas of climate innovation, there is an enormous potential business model and price tag to be won. But, and obviously this is where your innovations come in, how do we sell these solutions? So I'll bring you I think I've got about 5 minutes left. I'll bring you, in the last 5 minutes, a couple of core insights, which I hope will be of use for you as you hone your solutions and pitch them as you're ongoing. So first of all, everyone talks about the values action gap, and you're going to hear that as you pitch your solutions into business. Oh, but are consumers going to buy this, and will they pay more? No, they're not going to pay more. They were never going to pay more, but they will buy it if we realize that this values action gap is actually a barrier. And what can smash through this barrier, or what this barrier is composed of, is a ton of different barriers. So the ultimate purchaser of these solutions or these inventions is going to be worried about, can she afford it? Can she find it? Does she believe you? Is it really better? Is it normal? Does it call to her? So we have all these different behavioral and psychological barriers around desire, preference, shame, trust, etc. And it's almost as if, and I've been doing this for 20 years, the marketeers who are selling these solutions kind of forget this bit when it comes to the sustainability solutions. And we've got to smash through these barriers with benefits. And we wrote some guidance on this some time ago, all available on the website, looking at how barriers can only be busted by benefits. So thinking about, in that kind of end product or end solution, what is the functional, emotional, and social benefit? And there could be a few. Now, I don't have much time, so I'm going to flip through this quite quickly, but all of this is on our website. We freely gift away the IP on this, so please download it, use it. Functional benefits, as they sound, are the type of things around value for money, performance, efficiency, safety, quality. Here is one.
These are amazing for travel. These are really amazing for travel. They blend.
Hang on.
These are amazing for travel. Really easy to top up.
That's not gonna work. Okay, that was basically about a new sustainable refill thing and how good they are for travel, for example. You've all seen the Levi's messaging, buy a pair of jeans, wash it less, wear it longer. That's the type of functional benefit. Could save you money, energy use, etc. Not always thought about are emotional benefits. So sensory pleasure, self-worth, big one for the psychology around climate change. Happiness, personalization, excitement. So here, let's see if this one will work.
All right, do your worst.
All right, 3, 2, 1.
Oh, shit. Oh my God, that is insane.
And that's 100
and something, 100 and a lot. So
that's the Tesla test drive, the kind of, 0 to 60 in a couple of seconds. And the evidence base now shows one of your best ways of getting someone to buy an EV is to get them to test drive an EV. Social benefits, different to emotional. This is how something is going to make you look in the eyes of others. So can it give, virtue signaling? Can it prove an identity? Can it make you look desirable? Could it improve family bonding? These are the types of social benefits. This, outside of climate, but is still within sustainability, is the Dove Turn Your Back campaign, going against the TikTok filters, which are all about, perfection and looking glorious, and just saying, we don't agree with that. Our identity is people as we are, basically. All right, so what I would suggest is, as you're honing your pictures, thinking about your solutions, have a think about the various different barriers that ultimately must be crossed. And even with your, who you're selling into, your businesses, what are the barriers you're going to have to bash through, and what are the benefits you can think about, functional, emotional, or social, that your innovation can bring. But the final piece I want to leave you with is that benefits are not enough. Oftentimes, what we're selling now requires a behavioral approach. We're not just selling benefits, we're changing behaviors. And if we look around, so IPCC has done this wonderfully for us. They've delineated the top 61 behaviors that as individuals we should be focusing on in order to mitigate greenhouse gas emissions. From one less flight, there's going to be a ton here that you guys are working on. Vegan diet, less packaging, reduced materials in the production phase, plastics, bioplastics, etc. So this is a really good evidence base we're using at the moment with our corporate clients. But actually, what we're going to need is to take a benefits and behaviours approach. And again, we've got some guidance on this. I won't go through all of it. We've boiled down the kind of behavioural, psychological evidence base into what businesses and brands can do to help their consumers change their behaviours, change their lifestyles, from showcasing to normalising to just asking for what you want. So that again is on the Futera, wearefutera.com website. But the thing I'd love to leave you with, and the thing that I think is a game changer in 20 years of working with this, is the behaviour superpower of influencers and creators. And this is an area that we're really building out at Futera at the moment. So again, for your ultimate consumer, your customer, and thinking about how they're going to market this, or even yourselves, forget traditional advertising. I mean, it's totally useless at changing behavior or selling these new sustainability messages, and think about a more creator or influencer-led approach. Recent stats by Unilever, our partner, show just how high the stats are on folks looking to creators and influencers for advice on sustainability and advice on sustainable lifestyles. 83% of consumers think TikTok and Instagram are good places to get advice about how to live sustainably. This is not a normal message out here at the moment. This is something which is new, and as I say, we're pretty excited about. And follow-up research that we've done with Ipsos and Unilever, as we're working around a consortium around creators and sustainable lifestyles, show that creators also think that sustainability is important. They want access to briefs on this. If they're going to move their business model from just selling, business as usual, any old product, they need the sustainability products and solutions to sell. And they want access to the science. They want access to good quality, non-greenwash products and data. And again, I'll skip through this. There's not much time, but in some ways, it's no surprise that these creators and influencers do so well at this, because they are not they open up, they bring us into their homes and their families' lives. They're more like talking to a friend, and we know that people trust people when it comes to sustainability and sustainable lifestyles. So I'll flick through these. They weave in sustainability, they banish myths, they normalize new behaviors. They really raise the status. And that is one of the big things that we're battling here, the low status and low desirability of sustainability solutions. So Depop and some of their high status things, and you may not be a fan, but I'm just going to leave you with this one piece.
I believe so much in the mission of Beyond Meat that I've stepped in to help with my greatest asset, my taste. This plant-based meat is not only amazingly delicious, but it's also better for you and better for the planet. It's a simple change that makes a really big difference. And now that I'm Beyond Meat's Chief Taste Consultant, there's never been a better time to go beyond.
So if you're thinking, oh, that's great, because the audiences we need to reach are not the ones who are in the folks that we talk to every day, and they're not even the audiences within the sustainability influencers. They're Kim Kardashian's followers, and there are wider, it's where we need to build our jury who are going to buy this stuff and vote for this stuff and change their lives in line with this stuff. So here's our sustainability success formula. You got to think about your benefits, the behaviors you try and change, bringing the creators, and you got to pay them, the creator community, and that should be a successful way of selling your climate solution. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed. Some really wise words there. We move on to the next round of startups now. And for this session, our focus is on food and nature-based solutions. And to kick us off, please put your hands together for Dan from Radiant Foods.
I come from a rural place in the southwest of China. Most of my childhood memories relate to very good food. I still remember how delicious the Chinese pork belly my grandma used to cook. It's so crispy outside, soft and juicy inside. That's how I grew up. Until 2018, when I came to the UK, I realized my diet has a huge impact on animals' well-being and our planet. Animal agriculture contributes to 18% of global carbon emissions, which is more than all the modes of transport combined. I decided to make a change, starting with myself. I turned to plant-based. Coming from a heavy meat-eating culture, it was very challenging. If I don't eat meat, what else should I eat? So I tried many meat alternatives on the market, but the texture was soggy, taste bland. The content and loneliness of ultra-processed ingredients made me feel unhealthy and bloated. This problem also shared by half of Britons who want to cut down meat consumption, but finds it very difficult due to lack of better alternatives. So we decided to create a better one. That's how Radiant Foods was born. Radiant Foods is a food tech startup. Starting from the lab, we spent 13 months developing new technology and formulation. Our product contains only 3 natural ingredients. With them, we're able to create a muscle-like meaty texture and umami flavor people enjoy. This year, we achieved the highest number of Great Taste Awards in plant-based meat section in the UK. We sell to premium supermarkets and health stores now. Customers can also purchase directly from our website, many through subscriptions. I am a self-taught food scientist. My partner, Satya, is a self-taught programmer. We met at the college during our masters. Both of us have experience in fundraising and building startups. In the last 2 years, we have served 20,000 customers and launching 15 premium supermarkets, including Selfridges. Received over 60,000 grant funding. Our online sales has 80% of retention rate. In total, we achieved over 50,000 revenue with 0 spent on marketing. we produce a ton of plant-based meat. What that means, the amount of drinking water we saved could supply to 12,000 people per year. The amount of carbon emission we reduced is equal to a person's driving time for 15 years. The arable land we saved is equal to the size of Mayfair. In the next 12 months, we plan to expand over 17 primary supermarkets. Recently, Whole Foods approached us actively, and tomorrow we're going to have a launch meeting with Planet Organic. In the next 3 years, we plan to launching national retailers. This will lead to a 10 million revenue, but also 400 times social and environmental impact. Our ultimate vision is to replace meat with plants, replace cruelty with compassion, replace pandemic with global health, replace climate change with sustainable lifestyles. We aim to create meat for modern humans. To realize this vision, we're looking for investors and advisors. If you have a 10 years vision like us, please come to talk with me. Thank you.
Dan, well done, and welcome to your other team member. Time for questions now, and again, please use menti.com, and details of which will be on the screen very shortly. There we go. For a first question, tell us what's different about you compared to other products that are out there in the market.
So we have our own production and technology that we have in-house that gives this completely different meaty-like texture that Dan showed before, while only being able to do with 3 simple ingredients.
I think another key difference is because I think it's always come from the founder's vision. So we are very health-conscious people, and we're looking to reshape the industry in a more healthy direction, but also people could enjoy the food. That's all reflecting on the packaging. For example, the whole packaging was using with compostable packaging. Is really down to the value we stand. Yeah.
One of the questions asked is whether you could discuss, please, the nutritional values of the products.
Yeah, sure. So for 100 grams, they have about 22 grams of protein, which is compatible with chicken breast. We also have high in omega-3s, which you can't find in meat, so you can only find in fish, which is something we can do something as meat for modern humans. We also have source of fiber. Again, you can't find that in meat. And the remaining values are very similar to chicken breast.
Another question asks, what's the shelf life of the products?
So it's about 6 months from since we produce. When you go to retail shop, you can get up to 2 months or 3 months, depending on which retail you get at, but 6 months from our end.
And do you own your entire supply chain? How do you ensure sustainability and reduced emissions across the entire supply chain?
So we don't own the entire supply chain. We do whatever we can from our side. So we focus mostly on the end manufacturing, production, formulation, but we do get help, or we do source from other partners in the supply chain. And regarding the second question, how do you ensure sustainability? I mean, we can only control our side of supply chains for now, given our scale, but we do hope that we can work in the future when we have more leverage, we can work with partners who share the same vision in terms of reducing the overall supply chain impact.
What would your grandmother think about Radiant Foods? One member of the audience asks.
My grandma actually don't know what I'm doing. She does just know I'm working in the factory because my grandmother is 100 years old. But when we had a call, I'm telling her the reason I don't eat meat, and she said, I want to quit meat. So she gave me a lot of hope. Even 100 years old could make a change.
So we can guess that she's a fan. Where is production? Is distribution only in the UK? Asks one audience member.
So our production is in a small factory in North London. The distribution is mostly in the UK, that's correct, because we want to make sure we are focused. And we only sell in London through retail, but online is throughout the UK. So focus is our key.
Do you have any plans to use more variety of vegetables in new products?
So we use beans, which you can count as vegetables. So I'm just going to reframe the question to, do you have more variety of beans you'd like to use in the future? And the answer is yes, but again, that depends on the cost of commodities, because you can use any different kinds of beans, but ultimately the price is very important for the end customer, and that's something we should be aware of in deciding which beans we choose.
And how does your product compare on cost versus both other plant-based products and meat alternatives?
So regarding cost, we focus mostly on the higher end, so we focus much more on health. So it is much more expensive than, let's say, the ones you find in Sainsbury's or Tesco's. Again, that's because of what Dan mentioned. It's our vision. We don't want to compromise on our health, and we hope to scale it through that. And the second part, what's the second part?
I think it's about, price is all about scalability. So the reason why we do this is also because we know that it's more efficient. We eat plants directly instead of eating chicken, and then chicken eat plants. So 1 kilo of, 1 kilo of soybeans, 1 kilo of chicken is equal to 3.5 of soybeans, right? Which would they provide the similar value, nutrition value, and similar calorie. So it would be much cheaper and more efficient if we eat beans directly. So that's all the reason we do, and there's no reason that why beans cannot be not cheaper than meat. So in the future, we expected that plant-based meat would be much more cheaper than meat.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. That brings us to time. Well done. Thank you very much indeed. Okay, that brings us on to our next innovator, and please put your hands together to welcome Polly, representing Alumundus.
Hi everyone. Sorry. So Alumundus means sustain humanity. We're a technology platform that connects businesses with urban sustainability initiatives. Through our platform, businesses can generate localized and tangible environmental and social impact and engage their stakeholders, whether they are customers or employees. Through our conversations with businesses, we've actually discovered that there are 3 objectives for them incorporating corporate and social responsibility. One of them is winning new business, whether that's bids for public sector or just getting a corporate contract. The second is talent retention and actually generating talent. And the third is the customer engagement and also employee engagement. Now, the problem is that a lot of these environmental initiatives happen in remote area. And oftentimes they're in far-flung places like conserving the Brazilian rainforest or planting mangroves in tropics. A lot of places that customers and employees never go and see. So what we're actually doing is that we're actually investing in our sort of local solutions in local areas where customers and employees are. So sorry, I have slides. I've just, there you go. So we're solving that problem by creating a platform solutions where a business can go and find these bespoke businesses and invest in any given amount. And after the investment, they can actually generate updated project updates and also engagement to their employees and customers. And there'll be volunteering opportunities for businesses where they can actually go and send their employees and potentially customers. So we've been piloting with Lambeth councils and their curbside strategy. That's an award-winning strategy that they're implementing for multi-year. And we're going to be looking to scale with different local authorities in London and Southeast. And our revenue model is quite simple. It's a simple commission and subscription model. And we'll be charging 20% commission to businesses and subsequent model for sort of subscription. And so the team has domain knowledge. So I've had 17 years of investment banking and financial services experience. And my head of product, Paul, is an executive founder with SaaS business, and he served the likes of Unilever and Nestle. So thank you for your time. And if you are interested in investing in your local communities and local area, please come and speak to us.
Well done, Polly. Thank you very much indeed. And time now for your questions again. So please do use the QR code that you'll see on the screen to get those in. Starting, Polly, with one about your competitors. Who are your competitors?
So we don't really have direct competitors because a lot of them actually have these projects in a lot of different locations, not necessarily in the urban areas. So I guess our indirect competitors are those people who are selling carbon offsets or carbon credits in those locations, or some of the NGOs who are doing these similar initiatives like tree plantings in the cities.
Okay, do we have any further questions? Yes, we do. Somebody asks, could these be used as volunteer opportunities for corporate volunteer days?
Absolutely, yes. That's one of the things that we actually offer in terms of teen engagement for a lot of corporates.
Okay, can you explain how you intend to generate income?
So like I said, we charge commissions for funds that we raise for particular projects, and then there'll be an opportunity for a subscription fee to maintain these projects after it's been implemented.
Okay, and any further questions? Yes, we have one about your limitation to scale, what those are, and access to initiatives and access to buyers.
So I think from a scalability perspective, there's a lot of opportunities in the UK for a lot of cities and towns, and also this could be a global initiative because we see a lot of the sort of climate disasters in various other cities in Europe and America and Australia, flood, fire, drought, etc. So this can be easily sort of implemented.
Brilliant. Okay. Do you do due diligence on the projects? One audience member asks.
Yes, so it's actually, so what we do is we do what's called ground truthing, so which is that you actually go and monitor the project, taking pictures, and there'll be a geotag onto our database, and so we can actually see the progress of these projects.
Brilliant. And one audience member asks, is there any link to voluntary carbon market or in the future, perhaps?
No, because we're not selling carbon credits because we don't have the scale. This is going to be happening in urban areas where there's a limited land availability. So what we're focusing on is actually things that matter to cities and towns. So flooding, for example, so we have rain gardens to stop that, sort of green spaces for people to enjoy, pocket parks, so for people to actually have sort of a social gathering, etc.
Brilliant. Any further questions? I think that brings us to time. No, we have one more. Do you have any plans to explore BTC to enable average people to own parts of their local initiatives and potentially profit from part ownership, for example, localized solar panel farms?
We are just focusing on nature-based solutions at the moment, so that's not something that we potentially later on, but not right now.
Brilliant. Okay, that brings us to time. Thank you very much indeed. Many thanks to Polly there. Moving on, please welcome with our next pitch from Acer Farms. Please put your hands together for Leo.
We all rely on agricultural supply chains that are not only the second largest source of climate change, but which are at increasing risk of simply breaking. I'm Leo, I'm the founder of Acer Farms, and we're solving these problems with warehouse-style vertical farms that will grow 3 to 4 tons of fresh fruits and vegetables every day, starting with leafy greens. Now, you might be aware that vertical farming has been through its very own hype cycle in the past few years. So there's one thing that I'll ask you to take away from today's talk, is that our farms are not only hundreds of times more productive than outdoor growing, they're also multiple times more productive than the current generation of vertical farms. The story I want to tell you today is how we're delivering it. We're domain experts. We bring years of experience to the start line at Acer. Most of that was developed in Japan, where we've helped deliver 2 large-scale farms. The first is delivering 3 tons of leafy per day. The second is delivering 4 tons of leafy. And our experience gives us a very different perspective on the drivers of productivity and the technologies that we need. The industry tends to focus on the cultivation recipe. understanding what light, what temperature, and what plant nutrition. But these are all really important, and we're working with some of the best plant scientists. But it's not the bottleneck to productivity. Rather, it's the way that you deliver that cultivation recipe that's the most important thing. The reason is that the cultivation process does not scale effectively. Most important, and the foundation for our IP, is the ability to precisely control the cultivation environment. It becomes exponentially more difficult to control the temperature, humidity, and CO2 as the volume of the farm grows. This is an example of the temperature control that's possible with the current generation of technologies, and it is simply not precise enough. So we've won a grant from the Green Futures Investment Fund to work with the environmental control engineers at the consultancy Max Fordham, and we've developed a digital proof of concept that demonstrates with millions of data points that we can control the environment at the plant canopy across a very large farm. This is the key that unlocks significantly higher productivity. First, it enables us to significantly increase capital efficiency by maximizing production density. Precision environmental control enables us to minimize the space between the plant and the light, meaning that our farms can be considerably smaller and cheaper to deliver. The design of our baby leaf farm has twice the number of rack layers compared to the current generation of farms. And the increase in productivity goes up as we grow larger plant varieties. We're also developing the robotics that we need to move plants around as they pass through our process, meaning that we can maximize density both laterally and horizontally as well. Secondly, precision environmental control enables us to minimize what most people think is the most significant operating expense in a vertical farm, energy. We can use temperature and humidity to drive plant growth, lowering our dependence on more energy-intensive lighting. We expect this to be able to increase productivity by at least another 40%. We're also working hard to make sure that we have access to the lowest priced energy. We're working with partners on sites where we can have our own on-site solar, on-site battery storage, and we're confident that we can take our overall net cost so we can use that solar and storage to arbitrage peak and off-peak pricing on the grid, take our overall net cost for energy to nearly zero. So what do we need? Well, next, we're going to build a full digital twin of our first commercial farm and a small pilot. We've got great quality partners. We're working with the plant scientists at the University of Essex, the engineers at Max Fordham, and the AI experts at Pacific X. So if you're a retailer or a food processor, we'd love to have you on board. You'll get to understand how we deliver such high productivity and make sure that we're delivering for your specific requirements around things like product hygiene. Let me leave you with this. We've solved the equation for mass market vertical farming. High capital efficiency, low operating expenses. This is how we deliver the scale and the price point that national retailers need to be part of the climate solution. Thanks very much.
Yeah, well done. And over to the audience for questions now. In just a moment, you'll see the QR code on the screen, and you can use that to get those questions in. Leo, starting with one about the limitations, if there are any, on what you can grow in a vertical farm.
Sure. Well, I'm sure you've all been to Kew Gardens. You know, you can grow most things, but it's really about what you can grow economically. So yeah, we're focused on the highest volume, highest value parts of the market. So leafy greens, baby leaf bag salad for a supermarket, or cut iceberg for fast food, which is a huge market. McDonald's UK is probably between 15 and 20 tons every day. So huge volumes.
We have a question in. How does it compare against outdoor farming in net return, considering higher productivity, but also possibly higher costs from facilities and from tech?
Well, yeah, obviously outdoor farming can be a pretty low return industry. Obviously, we think we can deliver an attractive return for our investors. We have to, if you think about it, if you want to produce a washed bag of salad, you need a big building in which to do the washing. Well, we're doing the growing and the packing in a building of the same type. So we have to make sure that we can take care of the energy piece, which we can, both by minimizing the amount that we need and then making sure that we're getting it for the lowest price, hopefully covering its cost, as I described. And then downstream, just making sure we run the farm really well.
What's your water dependency?
It's, tiny. It's a few % of outdoor farming. If you think about how you have to irrigate a field, most of it does not end up in the plant. So 1-2%.
Where is the plan for the location for the next farm? Asks one audience member, and why?
So we're still location agnostic. In the UK, we would position to optimize for energy. So the build out to net zero is creating pockets of very, very cheap energy. So one way of thinking about it is that our farms are turning that energy into food. So we're sort of a battery in some sense. We're storing that energy as food. We'd look to, there are some, I can't tell you where they are because it's trade secret, but there are some specific locations where we could do that. Obviously, as we look around the world, there's great markets in America. 90% of US fruit and veg grown in California. Everything eaten on the East Coast has traveled thousands of miles. Middle East, these are all obvious options.
And no doubt if you have more questions, you'll be available for answers later on. Does vertical farming also have a future in developing countries and rural areas to safeguard as much arable land and nature ecosystems as possible?
It's still pretty capital intensive, and so the price point that we want to deliver a high quality product into a probably developed market consumer. It's hundreds of times more productive per acre. So wherever you have land pressure, there's likely to be some opportunity.
Do you use artificial lighting for growing your vegetables?
Absolutely, yeah. Our farms look like any other warehouse, so no glass, all grown under LEDs. Now, the caveat to that is that we are starting to explore some options to try and use fiber optics to bring natural light into the farm, but we would prioritize control of the environment.
Okay, and another question asks, can you license your technology, or will you have to build and operate your own farms?
So
can you license your technology?
Great question, thank you. Yes, we can license our technology, but I think the industry has been disappointed by the performance so far, and so we expect to need to build and operate our first farm ourselves, and then moving to a licensing model once partners are comfortable with what they can deliver.
Do vertical farms use fertilizers and herbicides? Somebody asks.
No, that's a huge advantage. So zero pesticides. We do use fertilizer, but zero pesticides. Basically, it's a physical protection of the crop, so no need.
Brilliant. That brings us to time. Thank you very much indeed.
Very much.
Thank you very much indeed to Leo from Acer Farms. And up next, representing Team Wave X, please give a very warm welcome to Clement.
Thank you. Yes. Hi, I'm Clement, and I'm thrilled to be here to tell you about WaveX. At WaveX, we harness waves to generate electricity and restore beaches. Coastlines are the last place on Earth that we humans can't harness. They are fluid areas shaped by nature, and so far we have tried to work there against nature, and we have failed. Why is that? Because we're used to working with rigid structures, and in a fluid environment, rigid structures don't do well. They either get damaged by storms or damage the environment, when nature uses a much softer approach. In nature, the seabed gently changes what happens to waves, absorbing, redirecting, or reflecting their energy. And that's actually all we need to do if we want to generate electricity out of waves or protect our coastlines from erosion. So let me walk you through how we can modify the seabed to protect the coast and generate electricity. First, we can raise sandbars by inflating flexible structures under the seabed. This will absorb energy from the wave and reduce erosion. And we can do even better. In July, we have demonstrated that waves can quickly transport sandbars onshore. All we have to do is raise the sandbar in the right location. We are thrilled about this result because it's never been done before, And it's much better to use waves rather than trucks or dredges to replenish beaches. It's affordable, it's sustainable, and much more eco-friendly. Now, the other major thing we can do, all with the same technology, is convert wave energy to electricity. We use pressure variations on our air-inflated bags, forcing air through a turbine that generates electricity. As our devices are placed close to the seabed, no, they are placed under the seabed, they can operate close to the waves and yet avoid the destructive power of storms. And this is interesting because this is what has been the main challenge for wave energy converters so far. In August, we successfully tested our wave energy prototypes in the fantastic wave tanks of Imperial College. We have reproduced results previously shown by several startups and universities, but with our devices that are 50 times lighter and 5 times cheaper. The result is that we can produce electricity for only 4 pence per kilowatt hour. This is cheaper than what we currently pay for fossil fuel energy, and we will help save over 200 million tons of CO2 annually at scale. Our team met through a shared passion for coastal environments and oceans. Together, we have the experience, we have 10 years of experience in the energy sector and the experience of creating several successful startups. So far, our many field and lab tests have taught us how to operate our devices under the seabed. This has allowed us to file 2 patent applications, to join the leading climate tech incubators in England, Scotland, and France, and win 2 prestigious climate tech startup competitions in Europe and the UK. Now, with what we learned this summer, we're going to work with several leading institutions in the UK and in France to deploy our operational prototypes on beaches. So why waste time fighting erosions when all we have to do is work with them? We're currently seeking private funding and a commercial co-founder. With your help, we can make this happen one wave at a time. Thank you. And here is Olivier, my co-founder.
Thank you very much indeed, and welcome to the part of the section where we talk about questions, where we take your questions. So please do get them in using the QR code on the screen, as you're used to doing. And we have a first question in about the size of your market and where you hope to deploy your systems.
Yeah, thank you, Rhea. Devices can be deployed where there are waves and the proper type of sediments and the proper type of bathymetry. That's around 20,000 kilometers over the world, and that opens a market of around 20 billion pounds per year.
Brilliant. How do you install your flexible structures under the seabed?
So I don't know if you've ever seen a stargazer-fish. They're big, bulky, ugly fish. And in order to hunt, they bury themselves under the sand, and they do 2 things. They inject water under themselves and they wiggle. And we can do the same with our flexible structure. So there is no need for excavation and no need for foundation. And we've prototyped that up to 4 square meters on the beach. We just sink them under the sand, and we can adjust how deeply they're buried under the sand.
We've had a question about whether this can be deployed in rivers.
Not really. We do need waves.
Okay. How deep do the bags need to be?
Typically a couple of meters under the sand.
And any further questions? We've already answered that one. Let me see. We have another question in about how you install, and you've answered that. Who can help give access to the coastal real estate that you need in order to install this?
Depending on which country. In the UK, we need authorizations from 6 administrations. Including Natural England, the Environment Agency, the Crown Estate in most places, Marine Management Organization, and a couple others.
Okay, another question in asks, are there not concerns about the existing ecosystems where you plan on installing your tech?
Oops, really?
The impact it will have on existing ecosystems?
Oh, yeah, thank you very much. Actually, we've asked a dozen marine biologists, And our approach is much gentler than, for example, wind turbine, which are already fine in most places, because we work in places which are already swept by waves, so it's not a very friendly place for fish. And past the first 10 centimeters, there is very little marine life. And as compared to a storm, which really steers everything, we are gently sink our stuff under the sand. So it's actually quite gentle, and we couldn't find much drawback so far.
Brilliant. How will you start generating income?
So in a few years' time, by selling electricity to the power grid, and to begin with, we'll be selling cubic meters of sand to councils. Currently, they buy sand that's being brought by trucks and dredges and barges, and we'll do the same, except the sand will be brought by waves and tides.
Brilliant. Somebody says, great pitch. Do you have any idea of installation and maintenance costs yet?
Yes, we do have quite precise ideas. The devices themselves are quite cheap. So it's mainly about maintenance and installation. But because the devices are very light, like 50 times lighter than equivalent devices, they're easy to carry around and to store and to manufacture. So it's mostly about getting the installation process right. And there'll be a bit of trial and error about that, but in the end, it shouldn't be very costly either.
We have a question about the maximum and minimum capacity of each unit.
So no minimum. Currently, we are answering a call by Wave Energy Scotland to use new electroactive material. It's type of material that directly generates electricity when you press on it or when you stretch it. And this can be used, for example, to power sensors offshore for scientists. And maximum, you just multiply the number of units. Typically, with 100 square meters of active flexible material can generate about 1.5 megawatt of electricity, the same amount of a small turbine.
Brilliant. WaveX team, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, that brings us on to the last pitch in this section. Please welcome the co-founders of Wonky Collective, Dina and Alina.
40% of food that's produced never even makes it to a supermarket shelf and gets lost along the supply chain. When thinking food waste, we often think about all of that waste you see at a supermarket shelf with yellow stickers and fresh produce. But did you know there's actually 10 times more food waste at a manufacturing level versus at retail? And this costs manufacturers £7.6 billion every single year in the UK. Now, I've seen this waste firsthand, having spent the last 10 years working in the food and drinks manufacturing industry. Much of it comes from surplus ingredients, such as oils, frozen fruit and veg, flours and spices. It's perfectly good stuff. It has long shelf lives, but it sadly just is no longer needed by the manufacturer. So their easiest option is to pay to get it disposed of. But what if it was as easy to sell as it is currently to throw away?
This is where we come in. I'm Alina, this is Dini, and we are the co-founders of the Wonky Collective, the first B2B technology to enable food manufacturers to track and sell surplus ingredients easily. The core of our technology is our matchmaking algorithm. Think Tinder for surplus ingredients. We connect food manufacturers with the best potential buyers for each surplus ingredient that they have. And our matchmaking algorithm is built with AI, and it's powered by the huge database that we've been building, mapping 4,500 UK food businesses, which is roughly 25% of the total, as well as all major ingredients used in UK food production, around 8,000. But how does it work in practice? One of our clients, a bread manufacturer, has 500 tons of surplus flour because of one of these regular forecasting changes. Today, it would just be impossible for him to find someone who needs that flour So they just pay to get rid of it and go to landfill. Now that we exist, we connect them to a biscuit manufacturer that needs that flour for their next production round. The match is based on the location, on the ingredients, on the accreditation, and the volume of food that both manufacturers use. And they both win from this transaction. The bread manufacturer creates extra revenue, and the biscuit manufacturer gets the flour for cheaper. And they also both reduce food waste and improve their carbon footprint. In addition, we're building a lot of back-end and automation tools to really simplify the entire process for food manufacturers. Surplus identification, ESG reporting, payments, food documentation, and logistics being the major ones.
Using our network and our first mover advantage, we've already built relationships with over 50 UK food manufacturers, including Nestlé and Greencore. We have £100,000 worth of stock listed on our platform, and we've closed our first transactions. We're generating revenue through commissions, and we've got a roadmap to a recurring revenue SaaS model when our technology is at full scale. We're also in conversations with Tesco about licensing our technology to them to support their 2,000-strong supplier base. At scale, our technology can help stop 2.4 million tons of greenhouse gases that are unnecessarily emitted every year. And according to McKinsey research, stopping food waste could also help food manufacturers to reduce their cost of goods by up to 10%. We're soon to be opening our pre-seed round in order to scale our business. As the Tesco director for food waste strategy told us, we are ahead of the curve with our thinking and really understand the market. We are now looking for angels and for climate tech VCs in order to speak to and to join our journey. Could this be you?
Well done. Thank you very much indeed. And time now for your questions. Do scan the QR code on the screen behind us. And starting with one about where the waste occurs within your supply chain.
Do you want to go for it? So the waste that we tackle is ingredients. And I guess the reason why it occurs is because manufacturers operate so far ahead. So if you're talking about a product on a shelf, a manufacturer would have had to buy those ingredients a year and a half before it actually reaches the shelf. So there are so many reasons why there are surplus ingredients, and that's why we're focusing on that area. And they also have huge minimum order quantities that they need to hit. So that's another big reason for the reason why there's surplus. And at the end of the day, they have to deal with all of the pressures from retailers, from us fickle consumers changing our minds and ordering patterns, which all has a knock-on effect to the supply chain.
We've had a question in about who sets the price for the surplus goods. Is there quality assurance put in place?
So in terms of the price, as you can imagine, food have an expiry date. And until you get some shelf life, the ingredients maintain their value. And then at some point, they reach a level where the price just significantly drops. We've been modeling the price of surplus ingredients as they get higher to that, closer to the best before date. And so the price is currently set by the buyer and the seller. They discuss it, but we, with our pricing tool that we're building, help us give an indication of what is the right price for that surplus ingredient based on the end of life. In terms of the quality assurance, yes, food is a highly regulated industry. I used to be a dispute lawyer, so I've looked into especially the quality problem and what can come out of that. The bottom line is that in most cases, you can draw it back to either the buyer or the seller doing something wrong. And we also have insurance for covering these cases where neither did anything wrong and we can't find responsibility.
Another question asks, how have you collected data so far, and how would that change as more firms use your service?
So we've currently collected data in two ways. First, there's some accessible information in terms of scraping the documents and knowing which manufacturer uses what ingredients because of the list of ingredients that you have in all food products that you buy. Then we've scraped other databases in terms of the food manufacturers. And then by accessing ERP through APIs that we're building with our partner manufacturers, we can see what surplus ingredients they have throughout their supply chain and also see what ingredients they use. So the more food manufacturers we have on board, the better the data we have and that we collect, but also the better the matchmaking.
Do we have any further questions? How do you compare to any of your competitors out there?
Well, we actually see one of our competitors as waste management companies because they're currently being paid to dispose of lots of this perfectly good surplus. But when it comes to tech, there are some other businesses. So in the US, there's a company called Spoiler Alert who's just raised 12 million, and they focus on ingredients, but they locate them in supply chains in a similar way to how we're operating. There's also Tesco, who have the Tesco Exchange, which they launched at the start of this year. And they've got a lot of traction through their suppliers signing up to try and work out what to do with their extra surplus that they're not using. However, they're finding it hard to create the transactions because they don't have any of the matchmaking algorithms that we're using in order to intelligently matchmake buyers and sellers. So they require a certain time. You need to need the product at exactly the same time as it's listed. And obviously that's where our intelligent matchmaking comes in, which is why they're interested in working with us to license our technology.
How many tons of food waste do you plan to save per year?
Well, as many as possible. As you all know, different types of food waste also have different impact on the environment. So some emit methane, some emit more CO2. We've currently saved 200 tons, which in the last couple of months, and we're looking to save more and more going forward.
I think that brings us to time. Do we have time for any further questions? No, that's time. Thank you very much indeed. Well done. A huge thank you to our second group of startups for another brilliant round of pitches. Once again, I'll now ask you just to take a few moments to score each of the teams that you've seen using the screen behind me, the QR code behind me. That's menti.com, and just enter the code 1405127 to give your scores. You might need to just refresh your browser page if you're having any problems with that, and then click the next button. That code again, 1405127. And this session is under the banner of system efficiency. So we're going to kick straight off with the first of your final section of pitches. Please welcome Alicia from Gritty City to kick things off. Please put your hands together for her.
Hi everyone, my name is Alicia and I'm the founder of Gridicity. We make software for intelligent electric vehicle charging. What air traffic control does for busy skies, we do for electric vehicle charging in busy cities. So you've got a limited supply and a limited resource, a lot of demand. So obviously we've seen a growing uptake of electric vehicle adoption in the UK and globally, and it's only expected to increase. It is largely seen to be the low carbon solution. However, what's really critical is that we charge those vehicles at the right time. And if we can do that, then we're able to still keep that low carbon. So a lot of businesses, especially, are electrifying their fleets. And my solution targets sort of a commercial fleet business. And the way that it would do this is by using a software solution to optimize the charging. So I'm going to give you an example. A business wants to electrify their fleet. They're a delivery fleet. They've got about 10 small vans that they want to electrify. Now, they're going to face several problems if they just switch like this. They plug in when they come back. And that's largely what we're seeing in the sort of trials that I've noticed in the industry, is that those fleets are coming back to depot, plugging in and charging up at peak hours. So this is definitely something we want to address. Now, that fleet is going to face three main problems. The first one is that those prices, the energy prices at that peak time, are the highest. Not only are the energy prices the highest, if they come back and they all plug in and they charge up, they're most likely going to be breaching their capacity limit on the site, so they might incur penalties for that as well. So our software is able to control that charging for the best time, not just to avoid that capacity breach, but also for energy prices. The second problem this fleet are likely going to face is that if they come back and they're charging at peak time, then this puts a big strain on the grid, and they will likely be risking blackouts. If we all adopt this behavior, they'll be risking blackouts and penalty fees. So with our software, again, the solution there is to move that charging, control that charging in an intelligent way, and actually that will provide a new revenue stream. So as more demand comes on the network, network operators will be compensating companies and others for not charging at peak. So that's another solution. The third problem they're going to face is that as they wanted to decrease their carbon emissions, actually if they're charging at that time, that's probably the highest intensity carbon generation that they could possibly target. So that demand for their energy is going to be met by fossil fuel plants. So by, again, moving that, responding to certain signals, so considering all those different signals, our software will then choose the best time for the best cost, for the most compensation in terms of not charging at peak, and for lowest carbon. You have this nicely packaged solution that's good for the company, for the environment. So at Gradissi, we are starting our trials in the coming months, and if anyone here knows any electric vehicle fleets, any commercial fleets or companies that want to electrify or that are installing charge points, I would be very happy if you put us in touch, and you can come and find me afterwards. Thank you.
Over to questions now, and again, a reminder, you just need to scan the QR code on the screen behind us and use menti.com to get those questions in. Alicia, starting with one about what makes you different from what's already out there.
Sure. So I think specialising in this place between where the electric vehicles are sort of the hardware side, the fleets and the hardware being installed, and the energy markets. I think there's an opportunity there that I've identified whereby, by optimizing for across those multiple streams, you can target that market best. Yeah.
Another question about what are the biggest barriers to EV adoption for particularly commercial fleets?
Yeah, so the first one is going to be the price of the electric vehicles. That's not something that I am trying to address. But after that, once that investment's been made by the company, I think installing the infrastructure, and particularly with a lot of issues around network, I can talk about that all day. If anyone wants to listen to me later on, they can come and talk to me. But there's a big queue, for example, for getting a higher capacity connection at your site. So one way to address that is actually to control the charging. So to have this dynamic load management algorithm that will allow you to have the chargers and to use your electric vehicles, but not have to pay big upgrade costs.
We've had a question in about how the solution works. What hardware does it need to work?
Sure. So it needs any charge point that is smart. So we use a protocol which is the Open Charge Point Protocol, which is sort of industry standard. So as long as you've got a charge point that's smart, that's newish, then it will be smart. We can control it via the cloud anywhere as long as it's got a connection. Yeah.
Who do you see as your customers? CPOs, hardware manufacturers, end customers?
Yeah, so there are two. The CPO, so that's a charge point operator, that's definitely a customer, because we can achieve a certain amount of scale. So the charge point operators are the ones who will do the back end for the chargers, so they'll do your billing, your maintenance for your chargers, etc. So by partnering with them, we could reach more customers just via API. We could provide our solution to them. And then the other way would be direct to fleets. So going to the fleet and then maybe bringing in a charge point operator or ideally, as I scale, doing that function myself as well.
A question about the difference from existing competitors already doing this. So Fuse, this audience member says, is a big player, for example.
Fuse, yes. Fuse is one of my project partners in my previous project, so I know them quite well. Yeah, Fuse are a charge point operator who will also do this dynamic load management, so they'll help you not go over your capacity limit. They're not in the not in all of those segments that I discussed around lower carbon, for example. Getting into the grid services, where I talked about avoiding the peak. But I think by targeting that space in between fleets and energy market, I think I've got an edge. You can come and talk to me later if you want to about that in more detail.
How similar and or different are you to GoEve?
GoEve. Unfortunately, I haven't heard of GoEve, so I don't know.
Again, perhaps one of you'd like to elaborate further in networking later on.
Yes,
that could be a conversation for then. I think we have time for one final question, and no, that brings us to time. Thank you very much indeed.
All right, thank you very much.
Yes, and just a reminder, if you have any further questions, you can get the chance to speak to all the innovators later on. Next up, we have Team DesignWise. Please put your hands together for Felix.
Hello, everyone. My name is Felix, and I'm the founder of DesignWise. DesignWise is a co-pilot for sustainable product design. I'm a designer by background, and I've had to design products for companies like Logitech, Nintendo, or First Group.
What always struck me during that time was how little attention is paid to the environmental impact of the choices designers make. And yet these choices really matter, because they're multiplied by mass manufacturing, and a small decision can end up having a huge impact. In fact, the EU estimates that 80% of product environmental impact can be influenced at the design stage. So making good decisions is really important, but it's also incredibly hard. You see, traditionally, designers are trained to be user-centric, but to make products better for the planet, they can't stop there. Instead, they need to optimize the entire life cycle of a product. Most designers simply don't have the necessary skills and experience to do this. Now, the problem is not information. There are tens of thousands of academic papers, material databases, and life cycle assessments. The problem is that design projects are fast-paced and iterative, and designers need relevant information about their specific design problem instantly. Current tools are clunky. They take weeks to produce any meaningful results, and they have steep learning curves, which is why they're simply not used in product development, even though that's where they could have the biggest impact. This is where DesignWise comes in. DesignWise connects designers with this wealth of information via a simple chat interface. This way, designers can get relevant information rapidly at every step of the design process, from analyzing existing products to coming up with new ideas, selecting sustainable materials, comparing different concepts, and finally convincing superiors or clients. DesignWise can help with all of those. We're in early beta right now with 3 product designers, and so far the feedback has been great. It's easy to integrate it into the design process, it allows me to offer additional services, and it even saves us the cost of hiring an expert. We're now extending this beta stage, so if you're interested, please get in touch. Over the coming months, we'll transform this prototype into a fully fledged software solution with different pricing tiers for individual designers, startups and studios, and enterprise customers. We're launching this at the Q1 next year. We're targeting profitability in the second year of operation in 2025 and more than $1 million in revenue in 2027. At that point, we'll help to save 20,000 tons of CO2 equivalent. Now, if you're an early stage investor and you're interested in this proposition, I would love to start engaging with you. Equally, if you're working in the manufacturing space, or if you're in product development, we would love to get in touch to show you our product. So with this, it's been an honor to present here. This is DesignWise. My name is Felix. Thank you very much.
Well done, Felix. Let's take questions now, and please do just scan the QR code on the screen above us. Felix, starting with one about your market size, what is it?
So eventually, we want to help redesign everything. And everything is a lot, and it's made by a lot of manufacturers. So there's 6.5 million manufacturers out there. Not all of them have internal product development departments, and not all of those care about sustainability. But those that do are still 250,000 companies. And that gives us a market size with the pricing tiers we saw earlier of 4 billion pounds.
We've had a question in about how you compare to other AI tools, so the likes of OpenAI.
Yeah, so our solution is specialized. So if you try, for example, on OpenAI, finding a specific carbon footprint for recycled aluminum from China, you won't get it. So we're kind of specialized on this niche use case. So that's how we differ from OpenAI. We actually use OpenAI at the moment in one of the prototypes. So we use their large language model connected to our curated database. So yeah, that's sort of how that interacts.
Okay. Are there any specific products that you're targeting initially?
Yeah, so mainly manufacturing goods. So that ranges from, I don't know, household appliances to all kinds of electronics. So mainly our target customers are industrial designers. So anything they design should be designed more sustainable, and that's our target.
And do you have any plans to integrate into designers' workflows and tools?
We haven't done this yet. It's something we're looking at, but I think, it's sort of a separate application. So you can see some eco-analysis is integrated in SolidWorks, but it's sort of a little bit sketchy. And I think ours is more sort of this co-pilot that you carry across all the different other applications that you use.
We have a question in about how open designers are to using products like yours.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, we've only worked with sort of a small sample for now. But what's cool is that designers, they know that design is a problem, right? It's sort of very, very known. And the ones we worked with said, hey, this is a really cool tool, can save us the cost of hiring an expert. And so pretty open. They're also generally early adopters, designers. So, yeah.
Any further questions? I think, yes. Is your solution suitable for industrial design of, for example, chemical parks?
I mean, in theory, yes. We're more targeted on the sort of the product scale. But I think, that's sort of something, once we've exploited our beachhead market, I think definitely can look into different industries. I thought first of sort of fashion and architecture. In theory, can AI help with this? Yeah, for sure. It's not our beachhead market, though.
And do you plan to build your own base models, moving away from OpenAI?
For now, no, because I think there's not really a need for this. There's sort of many models available. The design of our application is pretty modular, so we can sort of swap out the model that we're using. For example, use an open source model instead, cut costs. And I don't think there's a reason why we would need our own base model.
Brilliant. That brings us to time. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much.
And many thanks for your questions. That brings us on to the third pitch of this section. Please put your hands together for the CEO of Tactuk, Giuseppe.
We all like the convenience of online shopping, right? But it's producing a huge amount of paper and cardboard waste. It is mostly recycled, yes, but even if it's recycled, it still needs lots of water, it still needs lots of energy, and it still needs lots of virgin fiber. Hi, my name is Giuseppe Fasano. I'm the co-founder of Tuk. We help retailers lessen the amount of packaging they use for the online retailing with patent-pending design, which is innovative and help them reduce the amount they use and also enabling reuse. Our packaging has been tested by the Belgian Post. We are currently talking with Adidas in view of a pilot, and also with a number of retailers such as Zalando. So what are we exactly proposing? A first way to reduce packaging waste is to ship in own container. And we are proposing this currently for footwear brands. Over 1 billion pair of shoes are sold online every year. And that is what you get if you buy a pair of shoes online. So it's the shoes in the shoe box, and the shoe box in another box. In this particular case, is an extra 330 grams of packaging. You can replace that box with a small sealing strip and eliminate thousands of tons of packaging. It is simply inserted through a slit on the lid of the box, and then it's attached to it, and it's ready to be posted. Another way we can reduce packaging waste is to reuse the packaging retailers receive back with returned orders. Returned orders are very high, especially in fashion retailing. Just in Germany, over 500 million returns are made every year. So at the moment, all this packaging which is received back is just disposed for recycling. But with our innovation, a box can be opened and closed many times, which means that when a retailer receives a parcel back, they can reuse to fulfill another order. And that, of course, saves lots of money because they have to buy less packaging. An example, Zalando could save more than 6 billion pounds a year in less packaging to buy. So we can lower the cost for retailers. We can lower the amount of waste and greenhouse emission they produce, and also enhance their reputation and eco-credential with their customer. We would like to connect with you today. If you could introduce us to a retailer or a brand that can have a pilot with us and benefit from our innovation. Thank you.
Very well done. And over to you for questions now, and starting with one about how you intend to make profit.
So we make profit by licensing our IP. So we have patent pending status, and we license to both the retailer and packaging manufacturers. So retailers, they save money because they need to buy less packaging. So a portion of that saving is a fee for us. And for packaging manufacturer, we can increase their revenue. And so a portion of that increasing revenue is actually paid for us as a fee for our IP.
How about whether shoppers are ready for this? Are people who buy products ready to receive their orders without that secondary box that they're used to receiving?
Yeah. For footwear retailing, there are already a number of brands that have redesigned the shoe box. They're mainly direct-to-consumer brands. Allbirds comes to mind. And they redesigned the box so it doesn't need a second box when it's posted to a customer. However, in their redesign, they have there's more material, so it's much more heavy. That means that for a normal company that sells perhaps 25% online, 75% offline, if they increase the packaging wait for all the shoebox, then there's a waste of packaging. So that is the solution we only address for online shopping.
We've had a question in about how Tactuc compares to its competitors.
We are the only one which is 100% plastic-free. So there are all the reusable packaging proposals out there, but they all involve some sort of plastic. And that is a problem because not everyone returns the packaging. With us, even if the packaging is it's not returned, it's disposed, you don't create any plastic waste.
And another question about how reluctant retailers are to try the pilot, and how was Adidas's response? How did they place an MOU or an order for it?
So we are still initial talk now with Adidas. They're looking to have about 100,000 units trial, and then hopefully that shows them the benefit. I think it's just, it's a lot of money to save. Retailers are basically throwing out money by throwing out packaging, and I think they will understand it quite easily.
Okay. Can you describe how it would work for clothes that don't normally come in existing boxes or robust packaging?
How?
So if we're sending clothes rather than shoes, how would that work?
So yeah, we close less. They buy a very small amount and then it's sent in a paper bag. But usually the box is the most common type of packaging is used. So yeah, and then we can reuse these boxes.
Compared to your competitors, one audience member asks, how do you compare in terms of the cost to retailers?
So we save money for the retailers. So very, very price competitive. All the reusable packaging, they can be more expensive, but ours, we actually save lots of cost to retailer.
Brilliant. Do we have any further questions? No, that brings us to time. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
And time for our penultimate pitch for this section now. And please welcome Ben and Cohen, and put your hands together for Team Nodum.
So nearly half of all households in the UK cannot charge an electric vehicle from home. Now, we at Nodum are determined to make accessible EV charging available for more people. I've really fucked up, haven't I? So we're determined to accelerate. I'm really sorry about this. It's quite funny. It's amazing how you can do this thing so many times in your kitchen, and then all of a sudden you stand up in front of the stage, and it completely changes things. So I'm going to start again. Half of all households in the UK cannot charge an electric vehicle from home. Now, we at Nodum are determined to accelerate electric vehicle adoption by making home charging more accessible to more people. Now, the problem with not being able to charge from home is fundamentally down to money. It is 4 to 5 times cheaper to charge an electric vehicle from home than it is from the public charging network. And we know that this is a barrier to EV adoption because 85% of people today who drive electric vehicles can have a driveway or a garage where they can charge their vehicle. And this is why we've created ChargeBridge.
So ChargeBridge is a revolutionary fold-out semi-private charge point. Once purchased by the resident, it is installed directly on the side of the building. The bridge then folds out and the cable is extended to begin charging. Once charged, the bridge folds back into the stowed position. This process enables more people than ever to access the benefits of e-mobility. And indeed, ChargeBridge is cheaper, easier to install, and more accessible. Drivers park on street, but charge using their own cheaper overnight home tariff, which is also of generally lower carbon intensity. ChargeBridge critically avoids costly groundworks and does not disrupt the footpath, both important factors for scalability. Finally, ChargeBridge can be shared amongst residents. This further lowers the barrier to entry and increases uptake of EVs.
So why now? Currently, there are 1.3 million electric cars on British roads. This is unbelievable. And 60% of people state that they will not buy an electric vehicle unless they can actually charge from home. And as we're starting to see more affordable electric vehicles come onto the market, there are going to be more and more people who are looking for a proposition such as ChargeBridge that allows them to connect their home to their electric vehicle. Now, in terms of where we're at the moment, we have a granted patent here in the UK. We're setting up trials with a Tier 1 council, and we've got a delegation from the Office for Zero Emissions Vehicles visiting us early next month. We have a clear route to market, and we're currently discussing with a number of EV infrastructure installers about our route to market. And we're going to be primarily a business-to-business to consumer proposition in the first instance, but we're also mindful of the ability to generate recurring revenue through offering grid services and co-charging possibilities.
So, our vision is for everyone to have equal access to healthy, sustainable EV transport, no matter where you live. We're looking for partners, investors who also share this vision and want to join us in bridging the charge gap. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm so sorry, I can't believe it.
Well done. Now it's time for questions, and we kick off with one about how Nodem compares to current solutions.
Okay, so obviously I touched on the fact that charging from home is fundamentally cheaper. So if you have the ability to charge from home, that's going to save you money. Now, if you're wanting to install a wall box, just a standard wall box on your home, the prices range from anywhere about £700 to £1,200. Now, and that's if you've got a driveway. There are other solutions, including ones where they cut a channel in the gully, which are being trialled by a few local authorities. But even the cheapest one of those is around about £1,000, and that's not including the wall box as well. So that would be probably about £1,600 or so in terms of the cost. Now, we're going to come in at a slightly higher price point than that, but we are offering a solution that is much more user-friendly and accessible. We're looking at a payoff, a CapEx payoff for the consumer of around about 2 to 3 years. So the average driver will be able to pay it off within 2 to 3 years. For someone who is maybe a working driver, such as a taxi driver or a delivery driver, who might be doing 40,000 miles a year, the CapEx will be paid off a lot quicker. So that's the way we're selling our proposition.
Another question asks about what response you've had from local councils so far.
So local councils have been varied. Certainly some are happily trialling it with us, and that's one of the ones that we're looking at up in towards Scotland Way. Other councils are a little bit more risk averse, but one of the things that they are staring at is the ability to roll out electric vehicle charging infrastructure, and that's going to be a huge stress on their budgets. A lot of the roads people in the local authorities are quite keen on the solution because it doesn't involve cutting into their precious pavements, which they're understandably very worried. So I think once we have a couple of local authorities who are on board, we'll start to see a lot more get involved.
Leading on from that, a question about whether you need planning permission to install your product.
Yeah, you'll definitely need planning permission. Obviously, we're working on getting some more, working towards a sort of semi-blanket ruling for different councils, but everyone has different rules for these types of things, so, yeah.
Within the primary legislation, there is, in the Highways Act, there is the ability for local authorities to give permission for the authority responsible for the roads, permission to overhang the highway. So that actually exists within the primary legislation.
We've had a question about the challenges around health and safety, given this is an overhead solution being installed in public spaces.
Yeah, so we have, you'll be pleased to know we've already done a lot of safety testing, and our current prototype can easily withstand someone hanging off of it. So often the question we get is what happens if some drunk, probably a bloke, hangs off of it on the way home from the pub. But rest assured that we have designed our product with this in mind. And one of the other things that we have looked at, Ben's been talking with insurers, and one positive from our perspective is that if someone does injure themselves from this way, that they would have tampered with our product. This is opposed to something like a gully where you've probably tripped over, and therefore if there is a payout, that would be a higher payout than what we would potentially have to pay.
I'd love to know how you trial drunk people hanging on the product. I'd imagine that's a conversation for later. Could you install one for my neighbour tomorrow, somebody asks?
We would love to be able to do that, but obviously we want to make sure we do this correctly, which will involve both permissions and insurance and making sure that we meet all the regulations and so on. So absolutely, we'd love to, but probably not just yet.
If your neighbour has their own property, then we can install it on their own property.
Brilliant stuff. That brings us to time. Thank you very much indeed. Well done.
Thank you.
That brings us on to our final innovator today, and please put your hands together, give a very warm welcome to Team Blue Nose representing Joe.
The mission of Blue Nose is to reduce the fuel consumption of the shipping industry. My name is Joey Sangar. I am a co-founder of Blue Nose. That mission came from an observation. On the planet, there are 5,000 ships that are solely responsible for 378 million tons of CO2. That's 1% of the global CO2 emissions. Those ships are container ships. When we came across those numbers, we felt compelled to act. But we didn't know how good a time it was to do so. On one hand, we have the ever-growing price of fuel, and on the other, we have new regulation shaking the industry, namely the CII, for Carbon Intensity Indicator. It's a grade of the carbon footprint of a ship. If that grade is too bad for too long, the ship can be barred from sailing. So there is a real legal incentive for ship owners. Our solution is to improve the aerodynamics of container ships. We created a design tool that allows us to generate optimized structures that streamline the profile of the ship, reduce air drag, and thus reduce fuel consumption. Our business model is to sell that equipment to ship owner as a one-stop shop. We then outsource manufacturing and installation. Depending on operational condition, we can save up to 5% fuel consumption. That's equivalent to $1.1 million per ship annually. With a retail price set below $2.5 million, we have a payback under 3 years, including maintenance. When we speak about the environmental impact, we can save up to 6,000 tons of CO2 per ship per year. And if our solution was deployed on the entire fleet, we would save up to 8 million tons of CO2 per year. That's equivalent to 2 million cars off the roads each year. We are taking on a market that is estimated at more than $12 billion. We are going to concentrate on the European market. Currently, being pre-product, we have 3 client conversations at an MOU level. We have a lot of competition, but we are the only one that is at the same time non-dependent weather condition, installable outside of dry dock, and retrofit. Thanks to our innovation, we are currently patent pending in the UK and recently filed a PCT extension. We also received a grant from IBM of £120,000. The team is comprised of myself, co-founder and CTO, and Léon Grillet, co-founder and CEO. We also assembled a wonderful advisory board that has a lot of experience in the industry. To cite only 2 of them, we have Jean-Marc Lacave, which is the ex-general director of CMA CGM, and Camille Beffa, which is the CEO of Louis Dreyfus Armateur. CMA CGM is one of the top 5 ship owners in the world, and Louis Dreyfus Armateur is one of the top 5 in France. So to sum it up, we are patent pending with PCT extension. We have 3 MOUs, and we evolve in an environment that is regulation driven. So if you are interested in turning all of that into impact, we're looking for £500,000. Thank you for your attention.
Well done, and we welcome your team member for questions. And it's the final round of questions now, and let's kick off with one about why this has never been done before.
This has never been done before for two main reasons. I would say the principal reason is the fact that new regulation is coming into force in the last few years that is really, I would say, forcing ship owners to take action. And that's why it wasn't necessarily economically viable to do it before, but now it is. And also we're seeing in the ship of the new builds that will come in the next decade that they start to integrate those type of solutions in their new design.
We've had a question in about shipping being very conservative. What's your route to market, designers, owners, operators, for example?
You can answer this one.
So I don't know if you hear me, I think you do. So one of the main routes that we're going to go through is through design offices. So most often ship owners have, I want to say, like privileged relationships with one or two design offices that have the, I want to say, the advantage to bring innovation to those ship owners. And so they look onto those design offices for new technology in order to improve the efficiency of their fleet. And currently we are in conversation with some of the most influential in France and in the UK, and we hope to bring our technology through those channels mainly. We're also, of course, present in many different conferences and physical meeting events because it's also a sector where you also meet a lot of people physically.
We've had another question about what the life expectancy of your design solution and how sustainability is the design solution itself.
Yeah. Currently, the life expectancy of the solution is 15 years. It is equal to the average life expectancy of a ship sailing out there. For the sustainability, we did a life cycle assessment, and we are carbon neutral under 4 months of utilization.
Does it not add more weight to the ship? One audience member asks.
It does add more weight, but all of that is taken into account when we do the efficiency simulations.
And what's your biggest challenge and opportunity?
He's giving me the difficult questions. So at the moment, one of the biggest challenge is for us to develop the first MVP on the ship. And so we're taking, I want to say, the different steps and iterations that are taking us there. So first of all, it's creating a collaboration and a network of the different stakeholders that are necessary in order to make that something true. And amongst them, of course, shipyards that we're currently discussing with, especially the one in Marseille, ship design offices, as I mentioned, certification offices, mainly Bureau Veritas in France, and also in terms of like main step that we are going to go through to convince the market is a prototype that is going to be built on land in order to test some of the technology and of course test some wave impact and corrosion on our prototype in order to validate some of the biggest, I want to say, pain point of the technology.
How about the material the structure is made of?
Okay, I can go through. So what I just mentioned is also a part of, the answer of that question. So currently there's two different ways to construct that structure. The first one is more conventional. It's going to use metal sheet panels. It's a material that the industry is very used to, and people know how to work that material. But at Bruno's, we want also to introduce novel material technology and structural strategy to that industry. And that's also some of the topic that the patent that we have deposited covers. And so part of the validation of using new materials and new structural strategy is to build it on land and do all of those testings. So yeah.
I think that brings us to time. Thank you very much indeed. Well done.
Thank you very much.
And that brings to a close our round of pitches this afternoon. It's now time to head to menti.com for the final time to score the last round of teams that you've just seen. And I'm just going to give you a few moments to do that using the QR code again on the screen and the menti.com site. The code is 1405127. Okay, it looks as though most of you have finished, but please carry on. While we're waiting for those scores to come in, please welcome back to the stage the director of Undaunted, Alyssa Gilbert.
Okay, well, thank you all for staying the distance today. I hope you were all inspired by both the innovators and the breadth of their ideas. Just to give you a bit of a feel of what they've been doing to get here, when they start with us, which was nearly 12 months ago, they come with an idea, a small sort of tested, piloted concept, usually tested in a lab, with some idea of their customers, but very limited customer testing, and really not always a clear business model. And the work that they've put in to be able to make these presentations to you is really just enormous. We've seen them develop their business skills, their skills in pitching and communicating their ideas, in many cases, the technical design of their product, and many of these businesses have changed their proposition, maybe quite significantly from what it started as, because of their understanding of the marketplace. So it's always really nice for us to see them to be able to present at the end of the year. So it's a real journey that they go on. I did want to speak a little bit also about a couple of the other things that we have coming up that round out the kind of activities we're doing at Undaunted to make London and the UK a great place to do climate innovation. As I mentioned when I spoke before, one of the things that we're doing is working really hard to build a healthy, interesting, varied pipeline of ideas coming in at the beginning part. And one of the important partners that we work with in doing that is one of Imperial College's student-run organizations called the Climate Entrepreneurship Club. This is a great group of students, and what they do is they try to attract students at Imperial and also elsewhere and encourage them to try and think about becoming climate entrepreneurs. And this year, they're also trying to reach out to other students across the London universities. They'll be holding an event here that we're sponsoring on the 25th of October. All of you in the audience who are part of London's climate ecosystem, please do promote that event. We'll be advertising it shortly on our channels. And let's try and get as many new innovators in as possible. Many of those people go on to be the innovators that you see on the stage here because they're bringing in technical expertise through the courses that they're studying, through some of the research they're doing in their PhDs, and through their connections. And so that's a really important part of building the pipeline. So that's the first thing I wanted to talk about. And the second one is at the other end. When the companies that you see here today graduate and move on, many of them, whilst extremely developed, are still at the earliest stages of their journey. And one of the biggest challenges of being a climate innovator is that many of these businesses that you see are creating really exciting new products and services, but they're creating products and services that are fit for the future. They are fit for the zero carbon, climate resilient future that, unfortunately, in case you didn't notice, is not where we live right now. What this means is that their customers are often the early adopters, but the bulk of the market isn't yet ready for their solutions. And so what we're trying to do here also is build a bridge and help widen the marketplace for this group of innovators after they graduate from us. So what does this mean in practice? Well, we're starting a new program in the next month or so, focusing on the built environment. We'll be inviting groups of built environment startups or scale-ups in the climate space. And we're going to be bringing them together with important actors in the built environment who might be project developers, they might be policymakers, they might be architects, designers, planners. And what we're trying to do is go beyond the initial ideas that we already have, our understanding of what the barriers are to taking up these new technologies in the marketplace, and try to build solutions over the course of a year by bringing those startups and scale-ups together. So again, my plea to you is multiple-fold. First of all, we're advertising some positions for people to run this program. So if you see those and you know people who are experienced either in innovation or the built environment who would be a great fit to help us run this program, please get them to apply. The second thing is we're really looking for those marketplace makers, those partners to come and meet with our built environment startups and scale-ups. So again, if any of you in the audience are those people or who know those people, please send them our way. And finally, we'll shortly be advertising for a cohort of startups or scale-ups to join that program. So again, there's an opportunity there. And I guess finally, while we're starting that program in the built environment, it's something that I believe is a challenge across all sectors in the economy. So in an ideal world, we wouldn't be doing this just for built environment startups and scale-ups. We'd be doing this in a parallel set of sectors. We'd be doing it for transport. We'd be doing it for heavy industry. We'd be doing it, for example, for greenhouse gas removal. And so if you are also interested in working with us to build a program like that, across the other sectors. We'd be really interested in hearing from you and working together. If you're keen, if you like events, there'll be an event at Sustainable Ventures on the 3rd of October where we'll be talking about that program together with our partners, Sustainable Ventures and West London Business, which is there's a wider program of offer there as well. So with that, I'm going to look to my colleagues. I think we're ready to now announce the winners. I think Rhea's going to come back on stage. And thanks to all of your scoring, we're going to offer some prizes. They're not enormous, but they're a token of our appreciation.
Symbolic prizes.
Yeah, well, they're real prizes, I guess.
Yes, real prizes with some symbolism. Alyssa's going to stick around on stage just to hand out those prizes. And just a reminder, before we announce the 3 top winners, that teams today were being scored on their commercial potential, their climate impact of their innovation, and the quality of their pitch. Thank you very much indeed for your scores. Before we announce them, can I just ask for a round of applause for all of the teams who pitched today and and for the teams that are about to be announced in 3rd, 2nd and 1st place, we ask that you just come to the stage to receive your award and just pose for a photo for a moment before filing back off. So with no further ado, in 3rd place today, please put your hands together for Blue Nose.
To be on it.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Smile for the photographer.
Congratulations. Moving on to 2nd place based on the audience vote, and with another very impressive prize. Please put your hands together for Diary Cycle. Congratulations.
There you go. Congratulations. Entertaining.
Okay, and in 1st place, with a very big prize, please put your hands together for our top audience winner of the day, Wonky Collective. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Wow, what a...
Thank you very much indeed.
I think they should all come back for a bit.
We're going to do one
Sorry,
group photo. Just hang on 1 second.
You know, you all come stand in line. Okay, nice.
One group picture.
Like Olympic-style podium. That was happening.
Huge congrats to all of our audience winners and, of course, to all of the teams who pitched here today. It really is no small feat to pitch their startups to you, and I think everyone did a really, really fantastic job. Before you leave, please do pledge your support using Mentimeter for any of the teams that caught your interest today. And if you want to connect with them, the form is now available on Mentimeter, and it will continue to be open not just throughout this evening, but throughout the rest of the week. So please do take a couple of moments to fill that out. That just leaves me to say, please do join us for drinks in the beautiful library and Georgian rooms of the RI, just through the room here, just through the door here. And as you will have already seen, all of our startups have standing tables. They should be really easy to find. If they're not, members of the Undaunted team are all over the place, and I'm sure they'll point you in the right direction. Final request, if you've got a lanyard, please do just leave the lanyard itself, not the name tag, I'm told there will be boxes placed at exit, so please leave that there. And enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Thank you.